It all starts with an old blood-stained wall clock showing exactly 7 o'clock. The mechanical bird emerges from inside the clock to chime the hour in that gloomy atmosphere. At that moment, the MC puts on his headset to signal that he is already on the line. He reports that the local time in South Korea has just struck 7 o'clock in the evening. He has just taken out his target and left the body resting on the floor of the dark apartment. The place is a complete mess, with red stains scattered all across the shelves. The young man is asked about the struggles of fitting in South Korea while wearing that high school uniform. He assumes the identity of a student and has to deal with the local high school rules. His biggest issue, in reality, is how tough it is to buy cigarettes as an underage kid. He walks down the street suffering from withdrawal and jokes that he feels like sucking on a pacifier. The young man regrets not stuffing his suitcase with smokes before entering the country. He remembers how much easier things used to be back in the day when kids made purchases without hassle. The guy realizes everything has changed drastically over the past 10 years he was away. He takes in the cityscape and notices the city now looks like a futuristic set. The MC walks along, looking at the street and seeing ridiculously expensive luxury cars everywhere. He spots an elegant woman stepping out of a red Ferrari right in the middle of the avenue. He reflects on how much the standard of living and people's behavior have shifted in the country. Several pedestrians are blown away and start snapping photos of the lady who just passed by. He ironically notes that even certain physical features seem bigger nowadays. The young man comes across a giant inflatable duck on the water and gets startled by the size of the toy. He realizes that despite all the changes, the cherry blossoms in that park remain the exact same. A kid runs past him, super hyped up to show the giant duck to his mom. The family walks along happily while planning to grab duck soup at a cozy restaurant. The MC watches that family scene and feels a pang of nostalgia in his chest. A cherry blossom petal falls near his face, making him lose himself in old memories. He remembers being little and riding on his dad's shoulders while admiring the falling flowers. His mom used to ask him warmly if he wanted to go to the movies for some real popcorn. The little boy would think long and hard about which movie he wanted to watch with his parents. He would pick a hilarious comedy meant for adults, leaving his mom surprised and his dad thoroughly amused. Back in the present, the young man continues his solitary walk under the shower of pink petals. He walks in silence, taking advantage of that rare moment of peace and quiet in the park. Suddenly, his comms device emits a beep, completely ruining the nostalgic vibe. The guy gets a bit annoyed that he can't even stroll down memory lane in peace. He pulls out his high-tech electronic tracker to check the new coordinates. The young man puts the device away and gets ready to kick off his real task for the day. Later on, he spots an old vintage tobacco sign lit up by the setting sun. He is amazed by the view of that old residential neighborhood sitting right on top of the hill. The guy approaches a traditional corner store and notices it sits pretty high up the slope. He finds the little store cozy and feels like this is where real people actually live. The interior of the shop is quiet, packed with shelves of local products. The guy opens the sliding door carefully and politely announces his arrival. He looks around, trying to find someone to help him in such a quiet place. Since he doesn't see anyone, he decides to wait patiently near the entrance. The young man steps closer to the cigarette display and thinks about grabbing a pack while he is there. All of a sudden, he senses a mysterious presence hiding behind one of the shelves. A squatting man asks suspiciously if a high schooler is even allowed to smoke. The young man quickly makes up an excuse, saying he is just doing a favor for his dad. He reaches out with a smile on his face, showing off an exclusive black credit card. The guy places the black card on the counter and asks us to split the payment into 36 installments. The card reader sits on the counter, waiting to process that payment. The man crouching in the store stares intently at the guy with an extremely serious and analytical expression. He quickly gets up, explaining that he is also just a customer and apologizes for the misunderstanding. The young man says he used to watch a lot of Korean dramas overseas and assumed he was the store owner. The guy suspiciously reveals that he also just returned from abroad while holding a utility knife in his hands. eyes. Both agree that it is a wild coincidence as they lock eyes in the middle of the dim store. The MC gives a mysterious smirk, realizing this situation is about to get dangerous. He remarks that coincidentally, both of them seem to work in the exact shady line of business. The young man is suddenly hit with a lightning-fast strike to the neck before he can even finish his sentence. The opponent charges aggressively, swinging rapid strikes with the blade right at the guy. The man reveals he knows he is dealing with a dangerous professional operative straight from overseas. The guy dodges the attack and calmly asks if his opponent's real goal here is actually to end him. The enemy smirks back, praising the MC for picking up on his true intentions so quickly. He lunges forward in a rage, calling the guy a traitor for walking away and turning against his own organization. The opponent keeps attacking, bringing up how the guy eliminated other faction members before running away. The enemy declares with determination that his sole mission here is to permanently take down the young traitor. The two exchange fast strikes in the narrow aisle, creating a massive mess on the floor. Various items and products start tumbling off the shelves from the intense clash. The guy points to the card he left on the counter and begins asking his opponent how it works. The opponent explains that the syndicate hands out different colored cards depending on an agent's rank. He breaks down how multiple tiers and colors define the power level of every group member. The man adds that the black card is the rarest and most valuable item in the entire mysterious organization. He clarifies that this specific item is given only to the group's most powerful elite warriors. The opponent admits in surprise that he had never seen one of those cards up close in his entire career. The young man snaps his fingers and sarcastically thanks him for the compliment coming from such an experienced veteran operative. The adversary stares at the guy with a cold, focused gaze, planning his next tactical move. The man asks where the guy's weapon is upon seeing him calmly stretching in the middle of combat. The young man raises his hands laughing and explains that his piece got confiscated by airport security. The opponent finds that attitude reckless and scoffs at the young elite operative's professionalism. The enemy snaps off the tip of his utility blade to use it as a lethal surprise projectile. He flings the sharp piece of metal straight at the MC's face in one swift motion. The guy manages to intercept the metal piece effortlessly, using just his quick fingers. The adversary takes advantage of the distraction to leap from above and launch another slashing strike at the young man. The attack grazes the MC's face, sending a shower of sparks flying into the air. The violent blow cuts open a package, spilling red liquid all over the dark aisle. The man gets frustrated upon realizing his fatal blow didn't land on the main target like he wanted. He corners the MC and demands to know the real reason he betrayed the powerful syndicate. The young man calmly grabs the enemy's arm, says someone at his level should have been content in the group. He questions why such a qualified agent with so many perks would ever choose to abandon the faction. The opponent stays silent for a brief moment, reflecting on the guy's heavy words. He shifts his gaze toward an open tin lying on the shop's checkout counter. The guy follows his opponent's gaze and listens to his explanation regarding that weird comparison. The man reveals that a whole life inside the faction felt just like being trapped inside a metal tin. All of a sudden, the opponent tries to break free and starts a new sequence of rapid-fire attacks down the aisle. The guy blocks the precise strikes, creating heavy impacts and sparks in the heat of battle. The enemy's blade shatters into several pieces after colliding with the guy's impenetrable defense. The MC emerges holding a metal shoehorn, praising the poetic metaphor used by his opponent. The opponent asks sarcastically if the guy took creative writing classes recently. The man takes an aggressive combat stance, signaling he is ready to fight to the very end. The two go back to trading extremely violent and fast strikes, lighting up the store with every impact. The enemy vents that he hated living as a mere hunting hound, obeying orders until the day he died. He keeps unleashing a barrage of aggressive blows, while describing that routine as a living nightmare. The opponent shows a look of pure madness and desperation as he delivers his strikes with even greater force. He confesses with hatred that his only desire, when betraying the syndicate, was to finally gain his personal freedom. The MC keeps dodging by millimeter margins, showing insane agility in battle. The adversary throws his entire body weight into a fatal rush, charging straight at the guy's chest. A deep slash occurs in the middle of that frantic clash, scattering drops of blood across the dark backdrop. The guy calmly mentions that the opponent must have lost something very important in exchange for his long-sought freedom. Blood from the fight splashes onto the lid of an abandoned aluminum can on the floor. The heavily injured man admits that he really ended up losing one very precious thing on his journey. He reveals with sorrow that his precious family was the terrible price paid for his decision to turn against the group. The adversary tells how the syndicate leaders took out his wife and children as soon as they learned of his escape. The MC listens to that tragic story with a serious and deeply thoughtful expression. The opponent explains that the faction constantly monitors all agents, family members, to prevent betrayals. He charges in anger, revealing the organization uses relatives as hostages to keep their operatives in check. The guy dodges the enemy's rush by kicking a huge bag of flour to create a smoke screen. The two collide violently in the middle of the white cloud of dust, causing massive destruction. The enemy remarks that it's far too late to regret the choices he made in his painful past. He ends up being slammed violently against the store counter, shattering the entire wooden structure. The MC approaches slowly with a cold look, asking if there really is no turning back for him. The opponent laments having had to pay for his freedom with the innocent lives of the people he loved most. The injured man smiles, disturbing, like saying his relatives' lives were a cheap price to pay. The young man is stunned and asks if he really went through with the plan knowing his family would be eliminated. He looks at the enemy down on the floor and says with disdain that all operatives seem to talk the same nonsense. The opponent begins to recall the past, back when he used to frequent that very same establishment. He remembers how the old store owner always looked exhausted and on the verge of passing out from overwork. The man recalls talking to the elderly owner in a friendly tone, showing genuine concern for his health. He would patiently suggest to the owner to close shop early so he could go home and rest. The enemy asks if the MC can guess what response that humble worker gave. The old man would smile and say he couldn't stop working because he had to feed his family no matter what. The injured man remarks that the old store owner was indeed a very kind person devoted to his home. He breaks down how the elderly man worked to total exhaustion to support his sick wife and young kids. The guy adds that the old man spent his entire humble existence sacrificing himself for those loved ones. The opponent reveals coldly that he thought the worker's huge family dedication was sheer foolishness. The guy is horrified to realize the sole reason for that old man's tragic end was simply the villain's sick whim. The enemy says with contempt that he found all that talk about family sacrifice extremely irritating to hear. He hated seeing happy people working hard and sacrificing for those they loved without getting anything back. The villain stands up amidst the dust and deduces that the MC must also act solely to protect his family. A high-pitched sound of a blade slicing through the air echoes, signaling the start of another lethal clash. The man asserts that this is the only reason the guy continues, acting as a mere hound for the syndicate. The MC reacts with a dark look and decides to give his opponent some veteran advice. He states coldly that for professional operatives, family serves as nothing more than a leash. The young man notices a slight creak coming from the ceiling, indicating something is about to collapse on them. Heavy objects and shelves come crashing down from above, creating a massive explosion of debris in the air. The guy shields himself and says that if he has to live tied to a leash, he'd rather not have any family around. The opponent emerges treacherously from behind the rebel, ready to deliver his final blade strike. Their weapons collide, generating a screeching sound that echoes through all the destruction inside the shop. The villain insanely declares he'd rather slit his own throat than live like an obedient hound. He is suddenly caught off guard by a super fast movement from the MC, who dodges his attack. The villain feels the blade graze his cheek and hears the young man's taunting whisper right next to his ear. The guy finishes off by saying that to actually slit a throat, that tiny blade of his was way too useless and fragile. The adversary is completely in shock, unable to grasp how the guy landed that lightning-fast blow. He notices in terror the small, bloody tip of the utility blade the young operative is holding in his fingers. The guy displays the tiny metal fragment with a cold stare and sarcastically asks if he really wants to know. The young man does a mental flashback, remembering the start of the fight when the opponent broke his own blade. He calmly explains that the enemy should have paid much closer attention to where his own weapon flew off to. The guy teaches that the third rule of espionage and covert ops is to never throw your weapon without absolute certainty. The broken utility knife and the kitchen knife now lie forgotten and abandoned on the bloody shop floor. The man drops to his knees, coughing up blood, realizing the fatal damage caused by that miniature blade fragment. The wounded man asks if he was being played from the start, but the MC promptly denies it with composure. The young man reveals he just wanted to find out the real motive behind the betrayal of such an experienced agent. The guy looks down neutrally at his dying opponent, assuring him he had no ill intentions with his questions. The man grips his bloody neck, bewildered by the level of coldness and calm shown by the young fighter. He deduces the guy was sent merely to execute him, but the MC denies it, saying he got it all wrong. The young operative leans in gently toward the fallen man to whisper the true reason for his arrival. He coldly whispers that the real reason he traveled to South Korea has nothing to do with him. The enemy's eyes widen in confusion as the guy reveals he was just a temporary roadblock along the way. He explains that the true primary target he needs to eliminate in this country is someone extremely powerful and unique. The young man says this special target is so dangerous that he will have to put his own life on the line to take him down. The MC takes one last look at his opponent and recalls his desire to regain his freedom. He observes the two bloody blades lying on the floor while offering his final wishes to the defeated enemy. The young man wishes that the man finally finds his long-sought eternal freedom in the next world. The old blood-stained wall clock keeps ticking at exactly 7 o'clock, connecting back to how it all started. The clock's wooden bird cants one more time, signaling the end of that bloody mission inside the corner store. The MC calmly walks out through the shop doors, reporting over his radio that the job was completed successfully. He lights up another smoke in the sunset and remarks that his opponent was a great warm-up for his true plan. The young man takes in the gorgeous reddish landscape on the horizon and prepares to head toward his final destination. He walks peacefully through the deserted streets of that old neighborhood, focused on finding his main objective. The guy looks over the big city from the hilltop, pinpointing the whereabouts of his real elimination target. He notices his school uniform is completely covered in blood and realizes he'll need to secure a fresh set tomorrow. The guy focuses his thoughts on the following day, knowing his grand plan is about to truly begin. He mentally prepares himself to launch his bid, risky undercover infiltration inside the local high school. The sign of the prestigious high school shines under the sunlight, announcing the start of the new academic year. Inside one of the classrooms, several students are already properly seated, waiting for class to start. The female students chat quietly at their desks, completely unaware of the danger that is about to step inside. A young girl with long black hair looks to the side in surprise upon hearing the classroom door suddenly slide open. That the teacher is writing on the chalkboard and turns toward the door as the MC enters the room carrying a backpack. The guy enters the classroom, introducing himself in a super laid-back and friendly manner to all his new classmates. He smirks, asking if anyone can bum him a cigarette, showing off his true personality. The story then flashes back 1 month in time, showing the luxurious mansion of a high-ranking politician. The MC appears in the past wearing casual clothes and holding a revolver with a deeply bored look on his face. He surveys the area and wonders why a family residence has so many armed security guards. The guy points his firearm at an elegant man and calmly orders him to step toward his own grave. The prominent politician, Manuel Santos, stares at the operative firmly, maintaining total composure in the situation. Politician listens to the MC's orders peacefully and decides to accept his tragic fate with resignation. The man accepts the situation, but demands as his final request that the guy release his family held hostage. The wife cries in desperation as she hugs her young son. trying to calm him down amidst the heavy tension. The politician appeals to the operative's professionalism, assuring him that his family has no ties to the case. The guy observes the two terrified hostages and starts weighing whether or not to grant the politician's last wish. He smiles and decides to let the woman and child go, without making things complicated, letting them run off. The young man recalls his rule to never harm innocent people unless they decide to attack him first on his jobs. The MC states with absolute conviction that sparing innocent lives is his sole and unshakable golden rule. The politician breathes a sigh of relief upon realizing his beloved family is finally safe and out of harm's way. However, the armed guards surround the guy immediately and prepare to open fire on their boss's command. The young man looks at them with boredom, commenting that such a weak move proves they're nothing but low-level amateurs. The politician confesses he was terrified the guy belonged to the famous and feared syndicate, Batala. The high-end Batala casino acts as an official front to cover up the secret operations of the largest crime syndicate. The casino draws only the wealthiest and most influential high rollers in the world looking for high-stakes underground games. But behind that lavish entertainment front lies a true den of professional hitmen. In the heart of that establishment, there's a very special table reserved exclusively for finalizing hit contracts. A highly influential client remarks that taking hit contracts so openly requires insane nerve. The beautiful female staff member proudly claims the casino's services operate above any authority or government. The client sits at the table and admits that the mysterious place's stellar reputation is indeed entirely true. He asks directly if they are truly capable of taking out his target and receives instant confirmation. The staff member guarantees the casino relies only on the most lethal and efficient mercenaries on the planet. She spreads a full deck of cards across the table and politely asks the client to pick one. The woman begins explaining that each card represents an agent's skill level, but the man interrupts her. The client proves he already knows the hiring rules and power tiers of that casino inside out. He picks the legendary Ace of Spades, placing total faith in the elite operative carrying that iconic title. The staff member compliments the client's choice, admitting that the Ace of Spades agent is indeed the perfect pick. However, she warns the client that the fee to hire an elite mercenary of that caliber is insanely high. The man points to a massive pile of valuable casino chips, assuring her that money is no object for him. He demands the job be done as quickly as possible and inquires about the target's current location. Back in the past, the MC recalls his personal code to never harm innocents on his missions. He calmly lights his cigarette with bloodied hands after keeping his promise not to strike those who didn't strike him. The mansion's entire armed security detail ended up wiped out on the floor for choosing to fire at the guy first. Mother tightly embraces her young son while both cry desperately in front of that scene of pure terror. The young man walks past them calmly and offers his sincere apologies for the tragic fate her husband had to suffer. He walks over puddles of blood, thinking that sooner or later he will also have to pay for all his sins. The narrative returns permanently to the present, revealing the beautiful and sunny high school building. The guy in uniform steps into the classroom, drawing the attention of all the students who were already seated. He completely shatters the room's silence by cheekily asking if any of his new classmates can spare a smoke. The teacher adjusts his glasses with trembling hands, completely shocked and speechless at the scene. The teacher scolds the guy's nerve, but tells him to quickly introduce himself and go take one of the empty desks. The MC puts on a friendly face and greets his new class with a warm smile on his face. He reveals his name is Ryu Kong Min, while actually being the ruthless professional operative known as Ace of Spades. He lies saying he transferred from Daejeon, but in reality, he was dispatched directly by Batala on a covered op. The guy knows that to get close to his target without raising suspicion, he must act like a student. He enrolled in that high school disguised as an ordinary student to carry out his new and dangerous hit. The guy reflects that in a super safe and heavily monitored country like South Korea, loud hits are impossible. He watches one of the female students from afar, knowing he must use his disguise to reach his real target. The guy ignores the distrustful glares from the class bullies, focusing only on making the most of his school stay. He pretends to be friendly with everyone while secretly planning the best opportunity to take out his prey. Back in the past at the casino, the staff member continues going over all the details of that new hit contract. She informs the guy that the target is a South Korean national currently residing in a neighborhood in Seoul. The MC listens carefully while reloading his revolver and getting ready for his work trip. The staff member admits to the guy that there is one single major obstacle to completing this assignment. She worryingly reveals that not even the leaders of the group know the real identity of this new target. The guy is stunned by that statement and asks if the faction has gone completely insane taking such a vague contract. The woman hands over a sealed manila envelope, revealing that the only info sent by the client was the target's name. The young man's eyes go wide upon realizing he'll have to hunt for a needle in a haystack with zero personal info. The casino staff member shows a paper that is almost blank, proving the client sent no other intel. The guy notices he'll have to track down a mysterious target with only a first name as his sole lead. He gets lost in thought, trying to figure out how he'll pull off this almost impossible job in the country. The young man shifts focus back to the present, revealing he has already gathered the first crucial leads. He explains he did thorough research beforehand to locate the target's whereabouts at that Seoul high school. The MC walks decisively up to the door and reveals that this classroom is where the target should be studying. The room sign indicates the young man is standing right in front of class 7 of the freshman year. The guy slides the door open slowly, but notices a major snag with his current covered up. He scans the inside of the classroom, filled with regular students, but can't spot the person he is hunting. The guy frustratedly discovers that his target simply stopped attending classes, leaving an empty desk behind. In the hallway, one of the resident bullies decides to block the MC's path in a super arrogant, provoking way. The tattooed bully tries to intimidate the new transfer for student, completely unaware of who he's messing with. The guy wastes no time and delivers a spectacular flying kick right to the chest of the bully, catching him off guard. The heavy blow sends the bully flying and crashing hard against the hallway wall. The young man steps over the fallen bully on the floor and quips that he thought the automatic door sensor was broken. The pretty black-haired girl and her friends watch that unbelievable sight with super impressed looks. Other students start whispering in shock over the insane power shown by the new transfer student. The girl walks up to the MC with a friendly smile and asks why he's hanging out all by himself. The young man playfully replies that he has no friends and begins plotting his backup plan. The scene cuts to the school's back courtyard where the sun is setting, painting the sky reddish-orange. The MC appears taking a deep drag from his cigarette, completely breaking school grounds rules. He blows out smoke, laughing out loud with the bullies who now crowd around him with immense respect for his power. Delinquents think the guy's attitude is super cool and start laughing at his funny stories. The group leader asks if he really moved from the city of Daejeon and gets a calm confirmation from the guy. The tattooed bully asks with interest if the guy knows the legendary delinquent boss from that region. The MC realizes this is the golden chance to cement his fake backstory as a rebel student. He lies convincingly, saying he knows the guy, and spins a funny story about a wild night out drinking. The girl listens, laughing quite a bit, and comments she already knew the new transfer student was special. The young man plays it down, saying they're just good buddies, and the bully leader notes how humble he is. The delinquent reaches his hand out in friendship, proposing they become tight allies from here on out. The MC shakes his hand, accepting the offer, and reflects that these troublemakers will be his first allies. The group of rebel students walks together through the residential city streets at the end of that busy day. The guy leads the way with his hands in his pockets, while the others follow along, chatting animatedly. One of the boys asks if his buddy is heading straight to cram school and mentions his shuttle is waiting. The other student complains gloomily about having to spend the rest of the night studying at cram school. The young man watches his classmate board the shuttle and mockingly wishes him survival through that study grind. He stays parked on the sidewalk, watching the vehicle drive off under the orange glow of twilight. The MC notices his high school uniform and drifts into a moment of deep reflection about his past. He painfully remembers a rainy night in his childhood, when he was taken by force inside a dark van. The little boy cried, curled up in fear, desperately calling for help from his parents who had vanished. The abductors roughly ordered that the boy be loaded onto a ship as quickly as possible. He remembers the absolute terror of being locked in that dark hold, tossing endlessly across the ocean. The criminals revealed they were taking that kidnapped child straight to the mysterious Angelo's district. Back in the present, the guy sighs, thinking about how his life would have been different if not for that day. He wonders if he would be living a genuine, happy school life instead of using all this as a mere front. Suddenly, the black-haired girl cutely bumps into him from behind, snapping him out of his sad thoughts. She grabs onto his arm laughing and sweetly apologizes, saying she almost tripped on the sidewalk. The two start walking together, and she tries to guess the guy's name, teasingly tossing out options. The girl asks if he's heading straight home, and the young man confirms he's pretty wiped out after his first day. She smiles charmingly, locking eyes with him, and gives a sweet goodbye before heading on her way. The girl asks if he wants to hang out and relax with her for a bit. The reddish overhead light gives the room a totally different atmosphere. Ryu Kong Min remarks that the room's lighting feels pretty cozy. He sits on the soft bed while the girl begins taking off her jacket. The young girl agrees and keeps slowly taking off her jacket. She points out that in the room, he can watch TV and play video games. The girl shows off a counter loaded with snacks for whenever he gets hungry. She smiles with ulterior motives as she edges closer to him. The young girl adjusts her hair and says he can also enjoy some tasty treats. She tosses her coat on the floor and walks over to the bed, where the guy is sitting. The girl climbs onto the bed over him and asks what he wants to do first. The MC lies there tense, not understanding what's going down. Several guys pop out snapping photos of the scene, and the guy realizes it was a setup. The bullies start cracking up at the young man's stunned face. They record everything on their phones, mocking him for looking terrified. Yan bursts out laughing, gloating over how great her performance was. Ryu Kong Min asks inside the room why they're doing this. The tattooed leader steps up and says he's the one who wants to clear something up. The bully asks the guy really knows a certain old acquaintance. Ryu Kong Min recalls claiming he knew that guy. He had lied, saying he had knocked back a bunch of drinks with him in the past. The tattooed leader starts exposing the truth behind that lie. He explains that the guy has liver issues and has never been able to drink. The tattooed bully shares that he called the guy, and he had never heard of Kong Min. The delinquents conclude the guy made it all up to act tough at school. The MC raises his hands, trying to spin whatever excuse he can think of. One of the bullies loses his patience and slaps him right across the face. They warn him that from here on out, the guy is going to be the class errand boy. Yan, the other guys step closer to keep the humiliation going. They yank on his shirt forcefully to rip his clothes off. The bullies rip the young man's uniform, demanding to see his skin. All of a sudden, the tattooed leader's expression shifts, and he freezes in shock. The other guys also lock up upon seeing the MC's menacing posture. The young man completely shifts his demeanor and presence in the room. The scene flashes back to Batala, where a mysterious mission is presented. The coordinator places the target's documents on the casino table. Ryu Kong Min rejects the contract instantly, tossing the papers aside. He questions how he could hunt a target in South Korea with just a common name. The guy silently reflects on being suddenly dispatched back to his home country. He knows that even after completing the job, he would have to return to Batala. He feared that seeing South Korea again would reignite feelings for his family. If that desire grew, he might end up making a grave mistake against the syndicate. Betrayal would put the lives of all his comrades in huge danger. The woman cuts him off, telling him he doesn't need to worry about that. She explains that this mission is completely different from all the rest. The syndicate has decided to offer an extraordinary reward for this job. Batala promises to grant him his eternal freedom if he fulfills the mission. The operative is taken aback and drops his weapon onto the table. He stares at the woman, unable to believe he could finally be free. The guy asks in disbelief if he really will never have to return to the organization. The bully is totally speechless as he looks at the MC's body. Hi-Yaon and the others watch the scene, unable to hide their terror. The guy's torn clothes reveal a body covered in deep scars. The young man gives a dark smirk, realizing he no longer has a choice. He remembers his rule not to hurt anyone unless he is attacked first. The guy extends his hand toward the boy who hit him earlier. In one swift movement, he unleashes his brutal counterattack. The MC lands a crushing blow that drops the bully on the spot. Yaon is horrified seeing her friend fall bleeding onto the floor. The other student screams in desperation at the violence of that impact. The guy looks at the knocked-out boy and regrets using too much force. He turns to the tattooed leader and tells him to be the next one to step up. The young man fixes his shirt, warning that he'll try to control his hits better. The story flashes back 6 years ago to a remote Batala training island. The training center alarm blares over the speakers that 7 minutes have passed. The voice announces that only 3 minutes remain until the end of the aquatic test. Deep underwater, the sea begins to bubble intensely. Young Kang Min appears chained to the sea by heavy ocean shackles. He struggles desperately against the chains, trying to survive underwater. The timer signals that 8 minutes have passed, and the chest pressure builds. The boy almost runs out of air while trying to break free from the ocean floor chains. Suddenly, the beach surface grows calm under the blazing sun. The snapped chains lie washed up on the sand near the water. A tiny octopus sits on top of the boy's head, who made it out of the sea. Kang Min crawls onto the sand exhausted, relieved he didn't drown. He walks along the shore, playfully thinking it wasn't his time to go to heaven yet. The young man takes a deep breath, trying to catch his air after that lethal test. A gun is suddenly pointed at his head from behind. The instructor coldly warns that he went over the time limit by 1 minute. Kang Min feels the cold metal on his face and jokes that now he'll really see his grandma. A gunshot echoes across the island, scaring the birds into flying away. The Batala flag continues waving under the clear sky. The instructor stands stunned upon realizing what the kid just pulled off. Kang Min disarmed the man in a flash and now points the piece right back at him. The instructor praises the kid's ability to use the environment to cheat death. The man asks if that rapid reaction was just his final fight for survival. The young man calmly replies that he knew exactly what he was doing from the start. He explains that the first round in a piece is usually a blank starter round. Kang Min cocks the gun, warning that from here on, the rounds are real. He aims firmly at the instructor, asking if he wants to test his luck. A shot echoes, marking the start of his journey as a true professional operative. Back in the present, the narrative highlights that South Korea is a pretty peaceful country. The motel room is a completely different world from the nightmare he grew up in. The guy reflects that those bullies are just regular high school kids. He knows he can't just go around wiping out innocent young students. The MC sighs and decides he needs to handle this situation the right way. The delinquent gawps in terror at the MC's cold glare. Kang Min bends down to pick up his fallen buttons, to set up a justification for the fight. He recalls that he was struck first and had his clothes ripped by the attackers. The guy concludes that this way, the fight will look like a brawl both sides agreed to. The young man laments over his brand new uniform being ruined. One of the bullies attacks the guy from behind, using a fire extinguisher. The heavy strike hits the MC squarely from behind. The attacker thinks he wrecked his classmate with the extinguisher, The guy blocks the fire extinguisher bare-handed without getting a single scratch. He drops the extinguisher onto the floor, terrifying the attacker with his surreal strength. The MC grabs the bully's face with incredible ease. He hurls the boy forcefully across to the other side of the room. The attacker gets pinned headfirst into the bed with crushing power. The other guys start shaking in fear at that terrifying sight. Hei Yan goes pale seeing her classmate unconscious stuck in the bed. The MC's name gets carved into their minds as a terrifying threat. The girl steps back in horror at the guy's insane power. The young man turns around with a cold gaze and says he has just one question. The delinquent panics and starts screaming frantically, terrified of getting beaten up. The guy asks where the other classmate who always hangs out with them is. He refers to the senior student who usually skips school classes. The delinquent backs away terrified toward the bathroom, asking why. The MC steps closer calmly and asks if there's any reason he shouldn't know. The boy enters total panic upon facing the guy's lethal glare. He runs frantically into the bathroom, trying to save himself. The delinquent locks the door, screaming that the guy is an absolute monster. A violent crash shatters the bathroom door into several splinters. The MC steps inside, reassuring him in a calm voice that he won't hit him. The young man looks around surprised, noticing the bathroom is empty. He wonders where the boy vanished to in such a tight space. The delinquent drops from the ceiling and wraps a hose around the guy's neck. He cheers loudly, saying his fake scared routine worked like a charm. The MC breaks the hose using nothing but pure neck strength. The attacker stands jaw dropped, unable to comprehend how that was possible. The guy delivers a devastating flying kick right into the attacker. The heavy impact destroys the bathroom plumbing and launches the boy back. Water starts gushing all across the wrecked room. The delinquent lies stretched out on the wet floor, unconscious after the blow. Hayan falls into utter desperation, screaming in horror at the chaos. The girl pulls on the tattooed leader, telling him to run away as fast as possible. The MC walks out soaked, asking why they won't just answer him. The girl pushes the leader toward the exit in absolute panic. The tattooed leader grabs the doorknob to leave. He remembers back when he was a promising mixed martial arts fighter. He recalls having a guaranteed successful career ahead of him. He lost everything after a violent incident where he crushed a rival's skull. The fighter realizes he has encountered someone truly powerful to face. The MC watches the guy in silence, waiting for his reaction. The tattooed leader turns around hyped, saying he was craving a real fight. He yells the MC's name full of excitement. The fighter charges fiercely, promising to crush the guy in battle. A shockwave makes the walls of the adjacent room shake. The vibration rattles the furniture and the phone on the nightstand. The student in the next room wakes up annoyed by the loud fight noises. In the next room, the young guy tries to explain the situation to his girlfriend. The girl complains testily, asking if he's just going to stay there listening to the noise. The guy, embarrassed, says the best way to handle it is by making even more noise. He gets hyped, saying he's going to make the room's walls shake completely. Suddenly, the wall collapses from the violent crash of the tattooed leader. The neighbor stands, totally paralyzed in terror before the destruction. The delinquent leader falls, defeated on the floor amidst the rubble. The MC appears in the wall opening, making a comment about the poor construction quality. Hai Yan trembles in fear in the other room, unable to wrap her head around the guy's surreal power. The girl desperately tries to open the door, but notices the handle snapped. A terrifying shadow appears behind her, asking what she's doing. The guy approaches calmly and advises that she should push the door instead of pulling. The girl cringes on the floor, begging not to get beaten up by him. The young man smiles gently, assuring her he never planned on hitting her. He kneels beside her and says he just needs a small favor. The guy touches the girl's face, stating that only she can help him out. The young girl agrees instantly, totally submissive to the MC's dominance. The guy begins asking his questions to get the info he needs. He asks for details about that senior student who frequently skips school. The scene shifts to a dark building in a secluded area of the city. In the basement of the spot, there's a hidden facility behind iron bars. Racks loaded with servers and IT hardware take up the space. A criminal celebrates seeing massive profits rolling into his account. He enjoys an expensive meal, saying the latest video made a fortune. The criminal boss states, laughing, that fresh stuff is always the best. The henchman agrees, praising the quality of the material posted online. The men celebrate the success of their illegal sales around the table. The boss shows on his phone that traffic is almost crashing the site. He explains that all that cash came thanks to one specific video. The screen displays the video recorded in the motel room being sold on the platform. The boss mocks at the people who pay to watch that kind of content. He keeps eating and celebrating the easy money made off the recording. The man throws his hands up, saying that basement turned into a cash machine. One of the henchmen warns that law enforcement could track the spot with so much traffic. The boss smirks cockily, telling the man not to worry about cops. He breaks down how servers sit overseas and run through encrypted channels. The criminal arrogantly guarantees no one could ever find that hideout. All of a sudden, heavy knocks start echoing on the basement's iron door. The sound of someone pounding on the door grabs everyone's attention in the room. The boss and his henchmen stare at the entrance, surprised by the unexpected visit. The silhouette of a mysterious person appears on the other side of the gate. The boss commands one of his men to go check the door. The henchman opens the door, asking who is there at that hour. A blonde guy wearing a leather jacket shows up looking for those responsible for the video. He takes a step inside the hideout without showing an ounce of fear. The blonde guy looks around coldly, confirming he found the right spot. The boss checks out the kid, noting he is clearly not an officer. The henchmen surround the intruder, asking which gang he belongs to. They question if he's part of some rival turf crew. The blonde kid places a hand inside his jacket and demands they delete the video right now. One of the henchmen walks up to the blonde guy, taunting him mockingly. The criminal tries to step up to the intruder, thinking he's scared. The other goons laugh, saying the room is about to stink up. A sudden gunshot rings out in the room, splatter marking the goons' faces. The attacker puts his hand to his face, not understanding what just happened. He drops to his knees, screaming in agony after losing his ear. The bald goon panics upon realizing he's completely gone deaf. The blonde kid presses the pistol barrel right against the bald goon's head. He pulls the trigger point blank, sending the man flying back. Two criminals lie stretched on the floor, lifeless and bleeding. The other henchman stares at the scene terrified. Seeing the intruder has a piece, the goon yells in panic, warning the others about the firearm. The young blonde wipes blood off his face, maintaining a cold, distant gaze. The boss leaps up from his chair startled, doubting that was a real gun round. A giant henchman attempts to grab the blonde kid from behind with brute force. Without even looking back, the blonde fires straight into the attacker's jaw. He coldly repeats his demand, ordering the video to be deleted. The remaining goons charge toward him, convincing themselves the piece is just a toy. They try to persuade themselves there's no reason to feel scared. The two criminals rush in together, attacking the blonde at the exact same time. The guy stands completely still in the middle of the room, waiting for them to close in. With two surgical shots, he drops both attackers onto the floor. The shell casings drop onto the blood-covered floor as silence returns. All the goons in the place sit defeated and lifeless on the floor. The blonde turns around calmly, stepping toward the boss's desk. The boss desperately tries to open the safe, unable to comprehend the surreal power of that gun. He crams stacks of cash into a bag, frantic to escape the room. The criminal shakes in terror, contemplating whether he should call the cops. The blonde kid appears behind him, aiming the pistol right at his head. He warns that the boss will face the exact same fate if he doesn't erase the footage. The man begs tremblingly, asking if deleting the file off the site is enough. He points to the hard drive reader, telling the guy to take the storage drive. The boss questions the reason for so much violence, asking if he was hired. The blonde-haired youth stares at him with a dead serious expression. The phone on the desk displays the webpage where the video was being sold. The guy reveals that the person featured in that video is actually himself. The boss stares at the gun barrel, trembling in total horror as it hits him. The blonde snaps at the mock comment and aims right at the criminal's face. One final shot stains the plate of food with the boss's blood. The scene cuts to a night view of city high-rises. The high school uniform featuring Ryukang, Mun's name tag appears prominently. The school jacket hangs neatly inside a dark closet. Concrete steps lead down into a dark, mysterious basement room. The wall bulb illuminates the secret workspace. Precision tools are arranged neatly on the workbench. A young man appears assembling a high, precision sniper rifle under the light. He tunes the metal parts of the weapon with insane skill and care. He inspects the rifle, noting it's a heavily modified model. The guy holds the weapon, aiming at a wall packed with tactical gear. He rests his finger on the trigger, reflecting on his arsenal. The guy adjusts the telescopic sight, demonstrating absolute precision. In the park, Ryukang Min crouches and asks the delinquents for a smoke. The heavily bruised bully offers the pack of cigarettes right away. The MC pops the cigarette in his mouth and gestures for a light. The tattooed leader flickers his lighter fast to serve the guy. The students bow around him, offering a makeshift ashtray. Yaeon shows up in the park, asking why they were meeting up today. Ru Kal Moon replies that he wants to finish the conversation started yesterday. He brings up his question regarding the senior student who misses class. The young man notices the awkward silence and asks why everyone is acting weird. The bruised delinquents glance at each other silently, terrified of his presence. Yan stays quiet, hesitating to spill the truth to the guy. The MC snaps his cigarette in half, asking if something bad went down. The scene flashes back to the basement massacre pulled off by senior Jang Hyeon Soo. The young blonde appears covered in blood after taking down all the criminals. In the past, the crew is seen hanging out at a target shooting stall. Yan adjusts the air pistol, trying to hit the target displays. The girl sighs in frustration after missing several shots back to back. She complains about the terrible sight alignment on the stall toy gun. The delinquents watch as she throws a tantrum over the game. The girl looks at the prize shelf, dying to win the giant teddy bear. Senior Jang Hyeon Soo steps up, cocking the toy air pistol. The 20-year-old guy gets ready to try winning the prize for her. He assumes a shooter stance, lying that it's his first time playing. The shot nails the dead center of the target with flawless accuracy. Yan gets hype, asking if he's really going to get her the bear. He hits an insane streak of perfect shots without missing a single one. The delinquents stand stunned by the senior's surreal aim. Jang Hyeon Soo hands the stuffed bear to the girl with a cool smile. Yan holds his arm affectionately, thanking him for the gift. The young girl steps close, promising to return the favor next time. The blonde-haired guy gets surprised by the girl's sudden affection. She starts playfully twirling the teddy bear in front of her friends. Jang Hyeon Soo watches the scene holding the toy piece, staring at the crew. He holds the air pistol while feeling his heart race in his chest. The senior gives a creepy smile, blushing as he remembers her compliment. The scene cuts back to the present on a busy street in Seoul. Hyeon walks down the sidewalk, showing major irritation. The girl asks why the MC is so desperate to know about the senior. Ral Kong Min appears right beside her, asking who she's talking to. The guy jokes around, asking if she's losing her mind, talking to herself. The young girl notices both of them are wearing super similar outfits. She complains about setting up a one-on-one hangout right on the weekend. The MC listens to the complaining without losing his cool. The girl recalls her promise to do a small favor for him. The moment the guy asked for her help flashes back in her head. Ru Kong Min shows his phone, saying that neighborhood is super famous. He asks the girl to show him around town like a good host. The girl checks out the guy's style while mulling over his request. Yan sighs surprised, realizing this practically looks like a date. Yan thinks that after beating up those guys, he started acting all slick on the street. While she checks out Ryukang Mun's behavior, he stares back at her confused. Ryukang Min smiles and asks if they shouldn't grab a bite to eat first. The two start walking together while he asks what she wants to eat. The guy pulls out his phone, saying the algorithm recommended an amazing spot. He snaps a quick picture during a moment they get super close. A mysterious man hiding in the shadows tracks the pair with a phone. The traditional restaurant environment is revealed as the order gets placed. The table appears completely covered by 80 dishes of feast food. Ha-young complains, saying his taste in spots is absolute garbage. Ryu-kang-min apologizes, leaving the girl impressed by his reaction. He confesses with total honesty that he never had a true friend before. The guy admits that because of that, he had no clue what to order to eat. Ha-young looks at him with a slightly softer, more understanding gaze. Ryu-kang-min serves food into her bowl and tells her to eat up fast. The girl complains she's on a diet, but gets ready to taste the dish. She loves the flavor, and the guy feels relieved seeing he nailed the choice. He brings up fried iguana, and the girl gets jumpy over the bizarre food. Ryu-kang-min gently wipes her mouth and captures the moment in a photo. Next up, the pair visit a famous calf packed with alpacas. One of the spot's alpacas begins screaming in a super bizarre way. The animal spits right on his face while Ha-young feeds another alpaca. Ryu-kang-min gets furious at the beast while she films the whole thing. The photo shows the guy looking horrified while the girl cracked up at the scene. Later on, they arrive at a building hosting an art exhibit. The MC pretends to understand modern art while inspecting the piece. The supposed art display turns out to be just a regular urinal at the venue. He tries to get philosophical over the urinal, leaving the girl totally lost. She points out on the flyer that it's actually a bathroom fixture fair. As night falls, they end up right in front of a famous luxury store. Ha-young strikes fancy poses to take pictures in front of the building. Ryu-kang-min complains about taking photos, but she orders him to keep snapping. The guy warns her that her phone storage space is completely full. The girl jokes around, saying her beauty needs to be preserved. Time passes, and the night grows even darker over the city. Walking through the park, she thanks him for the fun day out in Seoul. Ryu-kang-min says with a smile that it's a shame to call it a day so soon. He points to a game stall and suggests one last round at the shooting range. Ha-young looks at him surprised by the guy's unexpected proposal. The target display comes into view, highlighting the upcoming challenge. The girl recalls the past when the senior played at that exact same stall. She checks out Ryu-kang-min from the side, feeling a slight nostalgia for those times. The booth owner explains you just need one hit to win a plush bear. The man jokes around, saying the bear is the perfect gift for a girlfriend. Ryu-kang-min takes aim, knowing the stall's gun is completely misaligned. Because of the owner's trick, not even a top sniper could score a hit. Ha-young doubts he'll land it, and the guy proposes a bet between them. He promises to nail every single shot and score the wanted plushie. In exchange, he asks the girl to do him one more favor later on. The booth owner scoffs, thinking it's impossible for him to hit anything. The guy fires and hits every single target all at once with surgical accuracy. The stall owner stands completely blown away, seeing he didn't miss a single shot. Ryu-kang-min passes the gun to the girl, pretending it was just beginner's luck. The man tailing them records the moment the guy teaches the girl how to aim. He steps in close, pressing his body against hers to adjust her grip on the toy gun. The scene shifts, displaying the front of the apartment complex during the night. Ha-young holds the ugly plushie she won, complaining about its looks. She walks down the street swinging the weird prize, confused by his pick. The girl blushes as she remembers everything that happened throughout the day. She pulls out her phone, thinking back on the weird favor the guy asked for. His request was simply for her to post a photo of the two of them on social media. Ha-young lets out a soft chuckle, finding the whole situation hilarious. Stepping into the elevator, she thinks his attempts to please her were super obvious. She remembers his sweet gesture wiping her mouth back at the restaurant. Memories of the fun moments by a side linger in her mind. The girl wonders if the guy genuinely thought that would make her happy. Ha-young hugs the ugly teddy bear, hiding her blushing face in it. She squeezes the toy against her chest, complaining that the guy is super annoying. At that exact moment, the stalker appears scrolling through their pictures on his phone. The mysterious guy scrolls through the page, inspecting every photo posted by the girl. He analyzes the details of the couple's day out with intense attention. The elevator chimes arriving at the 5th floor, making the man halt. The doors slide open, revealing the girl about to step out into the dark hallway. Yan finds the presence of that person standing right in front of her super strange. Senior Jang Hyun-soo appears, staring down the girl with a menacing look. The quiet hallway of the building gets swallowed by a heavy, dangerous vibe. The plushie drops onto the floor as the girl is caught off guard by the guy. Jang Hyun-soo says it's dangerous to walk the streets late and orders her inside. He grabs her by the neck tightly, demanding to know what she was doing out there. The former student barges into her apartment, saying the place brings back memories. Holding the girl by the neck, he mentions he hadn't been there since that fateful day. The scene shows a past memory when the group used to drink together in the apartment. Everyone was celebrating and making cheerful toasts in the girls' room. The delinquents were chatting and knocking back drinks without a care in the world. Yan warned them in the past to drink in moderation inside the place. Jang Hyun-soo promised to look out for everyone to put the girl at ease. Back then, she trusted the senior because he was older and more mature. The guy replied with a smile, telling her to just trust his lead. The liquor bottle on the floor shows time ticking away at that party. Several empty bottles pile up across the floor as the night wears on. All the delinquents end up passed out on the floor, completely wasted. Yan falls asleep on the mattress, unaware of the danger surrounding her. Jang Hyun-soo edges closer to the unconscious girl in the dark. The guy whispers her name as he leans down in her direction. He watches the girl sleeping to confirm she's completely out. The girl keeps sleeping soundly, unaware of his dark intentions. The senior takes a tense, deep breath, staring at the helpless girl on the mattress. A desperate scream echoed through the building in the middle of that past night. Back in the present, he accuses the girl of ruining his life after reporting him. Jang Hyun-soo viciously reveals he was expelled from school and disowned by his family. Yan collapsed on the floor, questions how his ruined life could possibly be her fault. The girl stares back at the guy with rage and openly calls him a disgusting criminal. Jang Hyun-soo stands shocked and outraged upon hearing the girl's firm response. The former student yells angrily, accusing the girl of flirting with him first. He brings up past moments when she used to act super sweet around him. The guy claims she kept calling him her protector and complimenting his strength. He accuses the young girl of leading his feelings on like a fake fox. Jang Hyun-soo shows his phone screen, leaving Yun utterly confused. The image displayed on the device is the recent photo of the girl right beside Ryukong Min. The attacker smiles sick, like believing she posted that just to make him jealous. Yun looks at him in horror, unable to comprehend the lunatic's delusions. He accuses the young girl of going to the shooting range just to trigger memories of him. Out of patience for such madness, the girl clenches her fist in sheer anger. Yun lands a hard slap across the guy's face, asking if he's lost his mind. The girl tells the attacker to get mental help because he's totally unhinged. Enraged, the guy shoots at the plushie on the floor, making the girl scream in terror. Jang Hyun-soo says he spent all this time gearing up to track her down again. He points a real firearm at the girl, revealing he has trained heavily. The criminal grabs the girl violently, about to commit something horrible. The guy begins shaking with anxiety, displaying his complete mental collapse. He yells insanely while the girl panics, trying to break free. Out of nowhere, a hand comes from behind, covering the attacker's mouth with a cloth. Yun watches shocked as the person restrains the criminal lightning fast. Ryukong Min appears smirking, saying it was totally worth hiring the photographer. The scene cuts to a dark, abandoned alleyway in the middle of that night. Masked delinquents appear gathered together, checking photos on their phones. The group reviews all the couple photos taken secretly during the day out. One of the students sighs, annoyed at having to follow the guy's commands. They pull off their masks, complaining about becoming Ryukong Min's errand boys. The young guy recalls the order to post couple photos and prays he won't get beaten up. He gets curious upon realizing the MC doesn't even seem to like the girl. The guy fails to grasp the real motive behind that elaborate setup. Inside the room, Ryukong Min reveals he was actively hunting for Jang Hyun-soo. He admits surprised that such childish bait worked so flawlessly. The MC mocks his rival, asking if he was that desperate. Jang Hyun-soo stays dead silent, glaring at his new opponent. The rival asks if he's the girl's boyfriend, and the guy answers sarcastically. The attacker attacker lowers his weapon for a split second, analyzing the MC's posture. Jang Hyun, Soo gives a dark smirk as it dawns on him who's standing right in front of him. He fires abruptly at the guy, attempting to catch his rival off guard. Kong Min dodges effortlessly and mocks the cheap, unannounced attack. The criminal points his pistol, promising to take the girl after ending him. The MC reacts at light speed and grabs the top of the rival's gun. He moves swiftly, asking if the rival really wants the girl that badly. The atmosphere in the apartment grows insanely heavy and silent between the two. Jang Hyun, Soo proposes a shootout, putting the girl up as the grand prize. Kong Min draws his own pistol, warning about the lethality of the fight. He stares intensely at his rival, stating his piece takes lives in a single shot. The phone screen displays a leaked video of the shirtless rival online. Jang Hyun, Soo panics upon seeing the leaked recording and asks who did it. Jang Hyun, Soo suspects the phone tech leaked his private video. The guy gets furious and threatens to shoot the culprit while remembering the past incident. An elegant man in a suit and glasses appears on scene, revealing the video is famous. The enraged youth demands to know who this intruder inside his own house is. The suited man explains he watched the kid's secret practice, recorded in his room. He mocks the videos where the kid practiced moves to pick up girls. The intruder finds it bizarre for the guy to film his own bed moves to improve. Next, the man handles the modified piece, impressed by the item's danger level. He praises the young man's knack for stirring controversy and triggering public scandals. The suited guy glares at the kid with a cold, mysterious look through his glasses. Jang Hyun, Soo grabs the intruder's collar, demanding immediate answers about who he is. The camera on the tripod next to the bed keeps, recording the heavy room vibe. The man mentions the existence of a secret crime syndicate called the Network. He reveals the group generates provocative content to profit off the internet. The suited guy loads the pistol, stating his job is to recruit top talent. He says he was super impressed by the guy's destructive potential. The recruiter aims the piece and invites the young man to join the crime syndicate. Back in the present, Kong Min questions if the rival truly wants the girl. Jang Hyun, Soo insists on a shootout duel to decide Yun's fate. The MC shows off his piece, warning about the gravity of that shootout. He states dead serious that his pistol takes lives with a single shot. The rival listens to the warning without showing an ounce of fear before the threat. Kong Min locks eyes with his opponent with a dark, calculating gaze. The unhinged guy presses his own pistol against his forehead, daring the MC to shoot. He taunts, asking if the MC is too scared to pull the trigger. Without hesitating, Kong shoots right into the rival's head with a fast round. The shot's impact flips Jang Hyun, Soo onto his back, dropping him to the floor in pain. The attacker holds his head howling in pain, unable to grasp why he isn't dead. The MC inspects his piece, realizing surprised that it was loaded with rubber rounds. The rival with the swollen forehead realizes his ammo delivery was fake. He groans on the floor for believing he'd get real rounds in the shipment. Jang Hyun, Soo slips his hand inside his jacket, searching for another weapon option. Embarrassed by the failure, the guy draws a second real pistol from his jacket. He fires by surprise, but the MC manages to dodge at the exact right instant. Kong Min notices the round grazes past, following the rival's obvious movement. The projectile impacts and shatters an item on the shelf while the guy dodges. The MC notes the power of the shot, questioning if it was really a toy piece. He thinks that type of heavily modified piece should never be in kids' hands. Kong Min states that the weapon mod was pulled off by a true professional. The rival fires furiously, while the guy praises the gun's flawless accuracy. Jang Hyun, Soo complains over the miss while the guy brings up his rap sheet. The MC finds it strange that he never got locked up having that piece. A subtle smirk forms on the guy's face as he connects the dots of the case. He questions if the secret crime group called the Network is shielding him behind the scenes. The Network is exposed as a massive criminal syndicate operating in South Korea. Its members operate operates scattered across the country, hiding their identities. The group operates through small cells, making investigations almost impossible. Because of this decentralized setup, uncovering the truth is an extreme challenge. Even facing so many hurdles, Ryukong Min vows to hunt every last one of them down. Batala travel documents and flight tickets appear, revealing the guy's next moves. The file confirms the guy is investigating the secret ties of the network. The target hierarchy displays the path he must follow to tear down the group. The opponent rushes forward fast, asking what the MC is staring at. Jang Hyan-Su glare checks the guy up close, outraged at being treated like a joke. The MC recalls discovering this blonde guy's ties to the network. The criminal loses his mind in rage, accusing his rival of stealing his girl. Ryukong Min views that rival merely as a stepping stone to reach his main target. The MC maintains absolute cool even in the eye of that furious attack. He moves with insane agility, dodging shots behind the kitchen island counter. Jang Hyan-Su keeps shooting non-stop, aiming to take down his rival. The attacker points his pistol, convinced he finally won the fight. Ryukong Min reappears at his side, aiming his own piece right at his head. The guy fires a rapid volley of rubber rounds straight into the rival's face. Jang Hyan-Su gets his face completely jacked up and bruised from the impacts. The MC nails his adversary, sending the blonde flying across the room floor. The impact of the crash wrecks several items scattered across the floor. Ryukong Min calmly pops open a soda can as if nothing even happened. He holds the can, mocking the criminal over his failed attempt. The guy sips his soda while the fallen rival attempts to push up off the floor. Down and battered, the attacker tries to play victim, claiming he isn't the villain. The scene flashes back to the past, showing the night he started going unhinged. In the dark room, the Psy stared at his phone, desperately awaiting a reply. The sent texts show the girl stopped replying and ducked every single call. Jang Han-Su grew furious upon realizing he was getting dumped by her. He remembered the moment when the girl praised his skills with firearms. The guy held his pistol, promising himself he'd get even sharper. He spent nights practicing alone in his room surrounded by modified guns. Back in the present, he cries, asserting he's just a victim of love. Ryukong Min drinks his soda and mockingly scoffs at his rival's twisted view. The attacker aims his pistol at the fallen girl while muttering to himself. He screams that he loves the girl, even after being reported and kicked out of school. The MC listens dumbfounded to the insane declarations made by the criminal. Ayan stays curled up on the floor, hearing the rants without being able to react. The girl lowers her head, horrified by that guy's dangerous obsession. Jang Hyan-Su loses it completely and starts screaming in the middle of the room. He slips his hand inside his jacket, reaching for his second loaded pistol. The lunatic draws both guns, swearing nobody else will ever have the girl. He aims both pistols directly at Yan's head to end her. Ryukong Min gets startled by the absolute madness and jumps in to intervene. The attacker cries and laughs like a maniac, promising to marry her in the next life. He fires frantically with both pieces, lighting up the entire dark room. The rounds blast the walls and shatter the apartment window into pieces. The wild shootout causes total devastation throughout the entire space. Freshly fired shell casings drop continuously onto the floor. The criminal's two pistols run completely out of ammo, smoking from the barrels. The attacker stands, completely winded and drenched in sweat after dumping both clips. The image highlights the durability label of the fridge used in the kitchen. Ryukong Min used the heavy fridge as a shield to save Yun's life. The girl remains completely safe and sound on the floor, hidden behind the makeshift shield. The MC peeks from behind the bullet-riddled fridge, staring down the rival incredulously. The attacker fails to grasp why the guy would risk his own life to save the girl. He stands silent for a few seconds, trying to process that move. All of a sudden, the criminal starts suspecting something and his face changes. Hoei Yam blushes on the floor, cringing at the guy's absurd insinuation. The attacker looks at the the ruined bed, suspecting they had an intimate thing going. He pulls a grotesque face of jealousy, refusing to accept that possibility. Ryu-Kong-min taunts his rival, asking if he's really that curious. The MC pretends to act shy next to the girl, just to drive his rival insane. Jang Hyeon-soo snaps and charges furiously with the gun in hand to attack him. In an imperceptible move, Ryu-Kong-min strikes the attacker's gun hand. The gun shatters mid-air, leaving the young guy completely in shock at the speed. His eyes widen, unable to wrap his head around what just went down in combat. Drops of blood start dripping onto the floor right after. The attacker falls into sheer panic upon realizing his finger was severed in the strike. Ryu-Kong-min shushes him with a finger to his lips so as not to disturb the neighbors. He threatens to take off his entire hand if he keeps screaming. The MC displays his pistol loaded with real, lethal ammunition. The rival freezes in pure terror, realizing the seriousness of the MC. Ryu-Kong-min aims the weapon and warns that the next shot will be fatal. Completely terrified and bleeding out, the criminal starts begging for his life. The guy keeps a steady aim on his head without showing a shred of mercy. Hearing the sound of the trigger clicking, the attacker enters absolute panic. Jang Hyeon-soo throws himself onto the floor and flees desperately, screaming he doesn't want to die. Ryu-Kong-min watches his rival's cowardly exit in no rush to chase. The wrecked apartment kitchen falls silent after the guy leaves. The MC pulls up his hood, thinking the rival should have run sooner. The scene cuts to the busy city center during the night. The sign of a famous themed cafe grabs attention on the sidewalk. A girl in a cat costume tries to attract customers on the street. The runaway charges through frantically right toward the girl in costume. He shoves the cosplayer violently, telling her to get out of his way. Panting and sweaty, the criminal tries to escape without looking back. Calm footsteps keep tracking his every move on the sidewalk. Ryu-Kong-min appears walking right behind him, terrifying the runaway. The guy bumps into pedestrians at the crosswalk, sobbing in desperation. He stops in the middle of the intersection and starts screaming, asking what he did wrong. The unhanged guy yells to the crowd, saying he's just a victim of a woman. He cries hysterically, asking why the MC is chasing him down. Ryu-Kong-min pulls out his phone, noting his rival's surprising stamina. The guy looks up at the massive screen at the top of a commercial building. He syncs his phone to the billboard display, set up for the final play. The criminal runs across the crosswalk, clueless about what is about to go down. The attacker's embarrassing private video starts broadcasting on the giant billboard screen. Jang Hyeon-soo looks up and stands completely shocked seeing the footage. People on the street find the broadcast of that bizarre video super weird. The crowd starts laughing and making embarrassing jokes about the guy. Everyone comments that his size in the recording is ridiculously small. The attacker covers his private parts, dying of embarrassment right on the street. He curls up in the middle of the intersection, screaming frantically that he isn't small. The lunatic tries to explain himself to the crowd, watching his total humiliation. Ryu-Kong-min gives a mocking smirk under his hood, watching the guy's desperation in the middle of the street. Jang Hyeon-soo goes into shock looking at the giant screen and finally realizing the trap. He turns around furious toward Ryu-Kong-min, who is just holding his phone. At that exact instant, the pedestrian signal at the intersection turns red. Jang Hyeon-soo runs like a lunatic, ordering the MC to delete that video immediately. All of a sudden, the criminal is struck with extreme violence straight in the face. A runaway truck plows into Jang Hyeon-soo, sending him flying across the pavement. The people watching everything from the sidewalk stand completely horrified at the sight. Meanwhile, on the giant screen, the guy's embarrassing video keeps playing non-stop. The attacker's body lies motionless on the road, while the crowd tries to figure out if he passed. Several people start screaming in panic, unsure of what to do before the tragedy. Ryu-Kong-min watches the scene from afar, thinking he didn't plan such a tragic end. He glances sideways with a cold expression, staring at the body stretched out on the street. The MC simply concludes the rival got the punishment he had coming while emergency services are called. The next day, routine goes goes on as normal at An Il High School. Inside the classroom, one of the students calls his friends over to drop Major T. The boy, shocked, reveals that delinquent Jang Hyan Soo got hit by a truck. The tattooed bully leader replies he already saw the news blowing up all over the internet. He shows his phone, confirming the Billboard hacker case became the #1 topic in the country. Another student jumps into the chat, mockingly saying the school finally managed to churn out a celebrity. The girl near them turns around annoyed, telling the boys to shut their mouths. Hai Yan gets reflective, finding it super weird that the attacker got hit on the exact day he went to her house. The young girl gets an unbearable headache while trying to piece her thoughts together. She realizes she remembers almost nothing about the night before, aside from the moment the attacker showed up. The girl only remembers screaming loud and passing out, confused as to how she even managed to survive. The night before, the network recruiter praises the durability of Korean home appliances. The suited man notes the fridge blocked the bullets and mentions hearing Ryu Kang Mun's voice. A mysterious shadow emerges from the dark inside the wrecked apartment. The suited silhouette walks up slowly to unconscious Ha Yun on the floor. The operative walks calmly, asking if the girl is already waking up. He tells her not to worry, despite the mess inside the apartment. The network recruiter adjusts his glasses, while his masked henchmen clean up the spot. The man calmly warns he's going to wipe away all the damage along with her memories. In the present, Hayan stays lost in thought, trying to process what happened. The young girl finds that whole situation way too bizarre to be a mere coincidence. The scene cuts to a quiet, dark residential street during the night. Ryu Kong Min walks peacefully down an alley carrying a shopping bag. The MC sighs, annoyed at not finding a single shop willing to sell smokes to minors. He complains about his 17-year-old front, wishing he was adult age and done with military service. The guy laments being forced to quit smoking while still having to serve in the military down the line. Suddenly, a voice greets him in the dark, and he turns around to check it out. The network recruiter shows up in a suit and calls him directly by his real name, Ryu Kong. Men finds it ridiculous that a shady guy in a suit would approach a student in a dark alley. The suited man fixes his tie and brings up the hacking incident downtown. He hands over a card, saying he was super impressed by the MC's skills. The recruiter shows his syndicate symbol printed on the business card. Ryu Kong Min looks at the card while the guy introduces himself as a member of the network. The MC gives a subtle smile, finding that approach attempt totally predictable. He remembers exposing Jang Hyan Soo on the billboard screen specifically to grab their attention. Ryu Kong Min knew whenever a group member got mixed up in a big scandal, they would show up. The recruiter explains he hunts for people capable of sparking scandals, while Ryu Kong Min knows they'd have to take interest in him. The MC gives a subtle smirk, holding his groceries, thinking his real mission kicks off right now. In his thoughts, he knows the standard method would be infiltrating the lowest rank of an organization. He'd have to work his way up step by step until reaching close to the mission's primary target. Ryu Kong Min reflects that would be the traditional route, but he plans to act a whole lot differently. The guy knows that in a decentralized organization, the recruiter always holds a high-level position. That means this operative answers directly to the boss, or at least stands super close to him. Ryu Kong Min presses his wrap pistol against the guy's chest and makes a direct demand. The MC commands the recruiter to personally take him straight to the big boss of the organization. The scene flashes back in time to a lavish room where everything started prior to the mission. The peaceful room is packed with gorgeous plants and floral arrangements. A mysterious blonde woman in elegant attire trims a red flower with scissors. She observes the hibiscus flower between her fingers while prepping the arrangement. The woman thinks about the special meaning of that flower originating from Hawaii. All of a sudden, she turns around surprised, sensing a strange presence inside the room. Ryu Kong Min appears sitting on the windowsill and cracks a joke about the flower's meaning. The blonde shoots back, saying he fell for a lie, and asks what he's doing there. She gets serious, stating she has something way more important to discuss. The woman sets the scissors down on the table firmly before reacting. She hurls the sharp scissors straight at the guy's head for sneaking in unannounced. The blonde complains he has a super weird habit of showing up uninvited. Kong Min blocks the strike using his own passport and mockingly scoffs at the attack. The woman asks if it isn't time for him to fly out to South Korea, and he suggests crashing there for a bit. The MC playfully asks to sleep on her lap, but the blonde shuts it down immediately. She shifts her tone, demanding to know the true motive behind his visit. The scene zeroes in on the cut floral arrangement, resting on the wooden table. Kong Min displays his passport and reminds her that an operative always gets a fake name for every op. He tosses the document onto the table to show his dissatisfaction. The document reveals that this time, they registered Kong Min's actual name. The guy questions the reason for using his true credentials on this mission. The woman explains that as soon as he wraps up this job, he will cease being the ace of spades. She guarantees he'll be able to live as a normal person and finally gain his freedom. Kong Min suspects the promise, saying that reward makes 0 sense. He recalls always receiving absolute fortunes in cash whenever taking out high-level targets. The guy holds a rose, questioning why a simple Korean guy's life would be worth his ultimate freedom. The blonde replies it was a direct order from Batala High Command, and it isn't their place to question it. She opens a drawer and pulls out a secret intel file that just came in. The woman hands over the papers, warning they contain updated details on the mission. Kong Min reads the document and stands stunned by what he uncovers about the target. The files reveal the primary target built a secret crime syndicate in South Korea. The dossier shows the group operates in the shadows, and only a few members have been identified. The blonde explains the initial step is to make contact with one of the members on the list. Kong Min notices all of them are students and finds it ridiculous having to pretend to be a regular kid. The woman holds a rose and warns not to underestimate the situation. She compares the target's organization to deep roots hidden beneath the soil. Back in the present in the dark alley, the talk goes on between the two. Kong Min presses the recruiter and repeats his demand without flinching. The MC makes it crystal clear he wants to be brought straight to the true boss of the network. The network recruiter stands silent with his back turned, processing that threat. The suited man turns to face him, warning that granting that request is completely impossible. The recruiter asserts there's no point in trying to threaten him, and Kong Min just mockingly laughs off his words. The MC says he isn't threatening him and fires non-lethal rounds right into the man's suit. The suited operative's eyes widen, unable to grasp what just went down. He stands startled and starts stuttering, completely speechless before the guy. The recruiter looks down at the suit marks and asks what he's doing with a toy gun. Kong Min finds the guy's lack of terror weird, while the operative mocks the kid with a toy. The guy curiously asks how he managed to clock so fast that it was just a replica. The MC tries to play off his skill, glancing to the side suspiciously. The suited man smirks and answers, it would be impossible for an ordinary student in Korea to pack a real piece. He breaks down the plastic differences and waits while Kong Min listens to the explanation mockingly. The lighting in the dark alley remains quiet during the pair's confrontation. Kong Min gets serious and warns he also wants to throw a direct question to the operative. The recruiter takes a step forward, bringing his face close to the MC. The man whispers in the guy's ear, asking what his true objective is in seeking out the network. Close up on the guy's eye, reflecting the impact of that unexpected question. Kong Min steps back laughing, complaining about the chills, telling him not to whisper in his ear like that. The kid reminds him that it was the operative himself who showed up at his door unannounced. The night remains quiet over the residential alleys of the neighborhood. The recruiter turns to leave and sets up a meetup for the next day at the address on the card. The suited man halts mid-step, sensing there is something super off about that student. He watches the guy tucking the toy gun into his waistband and picks up a strong smell of gunpowder. Kong Min notices the operative's suspicious glare and suspects he picked up on something. The network recruiter walks away, realizing that kid is no ordinary teenager. The suited man concludes he's actually dealing with a seasoned professional operative. The scene cuts to the MC's dark room, revealing his safe house hideout. The quiet environment holds several secrets concealed behind doors. Inside the closet, the high school uniform used as a front hangs displayed. Ryu Kong. Min reflects that contact with the syndicate went down exactly as he had mapped out. The laptop displays hacked data and frequencies from the network. A secret wall panel exposes dozens of lethal weapons stashed away. Several official uniforms line up to be used as disguises on ops. A large tactical board displays maps and red strings connecting the suspects. Ryu Kong Min inspects all the gathered leads pinned to the wall, lit by the lamp. He handles a toy package, dismantling the structure with his hands. The guy reflects that this crime syndicate lies without breaking a sweat. The toy manual shows instructions, while he compares it to the network's fake nature. He pops open the plastic egg, hiding a modified component in its interior. The scene shows the Batala blonde practicing her stretches in a traditional hall. The woman remarks while working out that the network operates heavily across all of South Korea. She compares that just like Batala hides behind casinos, the network uses similar fronts. The blonde explains they use teenagers as a shield to fool local authorities. She acknowledges there are still many mysteries surrounding the network's true leadership. The woman focuses on her workout and admits the network is a formidable threat. She asserts that this syndicate is Batala's local equivalent in South Korea. The blonde praises the MC for managing to grab their attention so fast. Ryu Kong Min listens over Kong replies that the approach wasn't as fast as she thinks. He recalls all the detective work done with files and red strings on the wall. The guy mentally maps out the evidence rotes and suspects' names. The image highlights the dark silhouette of the syndicate boss at the top of the board. Ryu Kong Min concludes that even after digging into everything, he is still far from the main boss. The photo on the investigation board reveals the secret boss, and main target goes by the name Lee San. Ryu Kong Min holds the round in his hand, knowing he needs to push the plan to reach the network boss. The guy inspects the toy miniature of his rival on the table. He laments that Jang Hyun-soo got hit by a truck, since he could have pulled more intel out of him. The scene shifts to the university hospital building during the day. The lobby TV broadcasts the news on the billboard hacking scandal. The anchor reports that police have yet to identify the person behind the attack. Jang Hyun-soo watches the report from the hospital bed, snapping and cursing at the cops. The delinquent complains to the doctor, claiming he's just an innocent victim of that hacker. The supposed doctor remarks he found the story wild, and the guy tells him to shut his mouth. The bedridden guy wonders why the hacker pulled that on him and calls him a maniac. Jang Hyun-soo reveals the attacker was no ordinary hacker because he was packing a real firearm. The doctor feigns surprise upon hearing about a gun, and the youth admits knowing nothing else. The healthcare professional gives a mysterious smirk, picking up on the guy's desperation. The fake doctor adjusts the IV, noting the victim genuinely holds zero useful intel. The man pulls a syringe loaded with a red liquid out of his lab coat pocket. He hooks the needle straight into the IV line without the youth noticing. The disguised operative injects the lethal substance, warning the guy's usefulness has run out. Jang Hyun-soo finds the doctor's tone weird and gets annoyed at the remark. The youth rests his head and asks suspiciously if he's actually a real doctor. The red substance quickly spreads through the IV bag. Jang Hyun-soo's eyes widen as he feels the initial effects of the poison in his body. Sunlight illuminates the room window while the tragedy unfolds in silence. The operative contemplates the bed, thinking about the scandal this demise will generate. The empty syringe rests on the counter while he plans to fake an overdose. The criminal adjusts the IV line, smirking at success of his execution. Jang Hyun-soo begins choking in bed, unable to comprehend why he's passing away. The youth tries to sit up in panic upon realizing he was poisoned by the fake doctor. He attempts to move his arms, only to discover his wrists were handcuffed to the bed rails. The youth thrashes desperately, screaming for the man to unlock him right now. He yells outraged, asking who that guy is and why he's doing this. The fake doctor places a hand on his chin and remarks he forgot to introduce himself. While the youth agonizes in bed, the man reveals he was sent by the exact organization man that hired him. He pulls from his pocket and displays the coin, bearing the official network emblem. The operative reveals himself in the dim light, confirming he belongs to the network. Jang Hyan, Su starts coughing up blood from his nose and mouth, feeling unbearable pain. The bed shakes violently due to the youth's agonizing convulsions. The youth stammers and chokes on his own blood, backing up through his airways. The injected poison causes an immediate shutdown in the youth's circulatory system. The operative watches the kid's painful end, finding the scene super fascinating. The next day, the scene shifts to the bustling intersection in the city center. Ryu Kong Min pulls up at exactly 2 in the afternoon at the agreed meetup spot. The MC holds the network business card, expecting to meet the suited recruiter. He scans both sides of the sidewalk and finds it odd that no one is waiting. Out of nowhere, a kid in a gray hoodie shows up coughing and calls the MC by name. The gray-haired youth smiles and friendly asks if Ryu Kong Min waited long. The MC asks surprised who he is, and the kid confirms he came on behalf of the network. Ryu Kong Min calls out the delay while the newcomer apologizes, saying something came up. The guy finds it all super fishy and asks what happened to yesterday's elegant man. The hoodie kid denies being a fake and pulls a key fob from his pocket. The fob activates a white luxury car that pulls up to the curb, leaving the MC stunned. Ryu Kong Min's eyes widen at the sheer elegance of the vehicle. The guy throws himself onto the hood and licks the hood ornament, saying he's tasting success. The hoodie kid gets embarrassed by the display and invites the MC to hop inside the car. The luxury car speeds off of high velocity through the city streets. Ryu Kong Min sticks his head out the window, shouting in pure excitement. The MC celebrates the engine's power, while the youth in the back seat warns about the danger. The hoodie kid warns that on the highway, any crash would be fatal. Ryu Kong Min mocks the situation, saying a tiny bump isn't going to end anyone. The hoodie youth gives a creepy smirk and guarantees that at that speed, impact would be lethal. He describes how the crash would eject bodies, shattering skulls and spines. The kid breaks down how the asphalt would cause severe burns and massive blood loss. He wraps up the tragic forecast, saying highway traffic would run over, crushing everything. Ryu Kong Min glances sideways, finding that dialogue way too morbid for a high schooler. The MC mockingly asks if he routinely studies ways to pass away. The hoodie youth replies that Ryu Kong Min should understand that better than anyone. The MC instantly goes serious upon catching the hidden insinuation. The guy tries to brush it off with a smile, asking how he'd know about hits. The hoodie kid smirks and mocks him, saying he's a terrible actor. The youth directly reveals he already knows. He's the legendary ace of spades from Batala. The MC loses his footing upon realizing his cover has been completely blown. Ryu Kong Min glances sideways, completely in shock at the revelation. He stands paralyzed, unable to grasp how his secret got uncovered. The guy's eyes widen, and he demands to know what he just said. The hoodie youth checks the digital watch on his wrist, showing the exact time. He extends his hand friendly, saying now he'll introduce himself for real. With an unhinged look and threatening tone, the youth reveals he is Lee San himself, boss of the network. The scene flashes back in time to the hospital, where the suited recruiter confirms he handled the issue. The operative reports how he erased traces of the studio break-in caused by the reckless member. He guarantees he wiped all evidence like blood, marks, and camera footage. The suited man confirms he threw all traces of the crime into the trash. He displays Ha Yun's photo, explaining he used drugs to wipe the girl's memory. Lee San, disguised as a doctor, inspects the photo, finding it bizarre the girl walked away untouched from a shootout. The youth mocks using medical jargon, while the operative watches him dead serious. The suited man gets annoyed, failing to grasp his superior's demeanor. Lee San smirks holding his phone, asking if he sounded like a real doctor. He reveals, laughing, that he practiced all night, watching medical dramas, and snaps a photo. Lee San takes a selfie with the recruiter and says he dug into Ryu Kong Min's entire past. The suited agent walks down the hallway, remembering that on paper he looked like a mere student. The recruiter breaks down how all the guy's school, cords and papers were forged. He adds he had to consult an international broker to dig up the truth. The man reveals the guy's origin traces back to the Philippines, and his real occupation is that of a dangerous professional operative. Lee San listens intently to the confirmation regarding the MC's rap sheet. The youth scoffs at the situation, saying a hitman battling high schoolers is a joke. Lee San keeps laughing and mockingly scoffing at the dangerous mercenary's rep. The recruiter cuts off the mocking with a tone of extreme gravity. He warns that the real threat isn't just the kid, but the organization backing him. The suited man reveals with a dark glare that the MC is an agent sent by Batala. Lee San freezes and his eyes widen upon hearing Batala's terrifying name. Lee San asks if it's the famous syndicate, and the recruiter confirms it is. The hospital hallway lights flicker, creating a heavy vibe. The kid claps his hands, hypely learning about the elite group from the Philippines. Lee San declares with an unhinged look that he needs to find Ryu Kang Min to ask for an autograph. Back in the present, the white luxury car speeds down the highway. The digital watch on Lee San's wrist reads 1:41. The youth gives a macabre smirk and officially introduces himself as the legendary Lee San. Ryu Kang Min's eye widens, surprised at encountering his target so fast. The MC turns dead serious hearing the name of the network boss. He recalls the classified files, stating the main target goes by Lee San. The file displayed that the syndicate leader currently resided in the city of Seoul. Ryu Kang Min evaluates the youth at his side, keeping his guard up. The guy mentally calculates how he should move at this critical juncture. The MC slowly shifts his hand toward his concealed piece. Lee San catches the move and asks mockingly if he plans on taking him out right here. The network boss makes a finger gun gesture, telling him to think logically. Lee San warns he would never show up unprepared for a meetup with a Batala member. The vehicle's tires screech on the asphalt, maintaining crazy high speeds. Several black armored cars pop up on the road, boxing in the luxury vehicle on all sides. Lee San edges close to the MC and warns him not to try anything stupid. Ryu Kang Min gently pulls back the kid's hoodie hood to check a detail. The guy discovers the Ace of Spades emblem printed on his rival's jacket. The MC lets out a gasp of astonishment upon seeing his own rank mark. Ryu Kang Min processes the intel in silence, trying to piece together the mystery. The guy cracks a bitter smile, realizing the situation just got insanely dangerous. The scene shifts to a sunny seaside cafe at a tropical resort. An envelope stamped with the Batala crest rests on the table beside a cup. Support Agent 3 of Hearts relaxes in a chair under the coastal sun. The young girl works as a dealer at the Batala Hotel Casino and provides up support. She recalls the organization's directive was always to construct flawless fake identities. The girl chats with her boss, asking about the current plan's details. She questions why they left intentional flaws in the Ace of Spades file. Batala High Command explains the flaws serve to bait enemy attention quickly. The woman adds that the final strategy hinges exclusively on the MC's calls. 3 of Hearts smiles, catching that piquing the rival's curiosity was part of the play. The sunny coastal sky stands in contrast to the heavy conspiracy vibe. The agent leans over the table and asks what will happen when they uncover the truth. Ants devour a sugar cube on the table, symbolizing the target's fate. The boss listens to her subordinate's question with a composed face. The leader asks if the girl knows the secret to fooling someone flawlessly. 3 of Hearts playfully asks if the best tactic would be a seduction trap. The boss answers that the key to deception is mixing a dash of a lie amidst truths. She holds the sugar cube over the cup packed with piping hot coffee. The sugar drops into the liquid, blending the dissolved lie into the truth. Back on the highway, the black car fleet continues escorting the luxury ride. Lee San asserts firmly that he already dug up everything on the MC's past. The kid whispers he knows Ryu Kong. Min is being hunted down by Batalo itself. Lee San gesticulates, scoffing that betraying the syndicate for freedom was insane. Ryu Kong Min stays silent, listening to the fake story crafted by his front. Lee San leans in curiously and asks the guy to share what drove him to betray Batala. Ryu Kong Min realizes the stage for his plan is set up perfectly. Now all he needs to do is blend a bit of a lie right into the truth. He decides to take real events from his own life and spin a fresh narrative. The MC wonders where he should start telling his story. He makes up that after one last op to take out a politician, he got promised retirement. The guy pretends he thought he'd finally head back to Korea to live free. But an agent from his own syndicate, waiting in the country, came to try and end him. The MC wraps up saying Batala never had any intention of letting him go. Lee San listens carefully and notes he's on the run from his former group. The kid asks if he shouldn't have hidden somewhere. No one could track him. Lee San asks why he was so desperate to grab attention. Ryu Kong Min replies that was the only way to get him to make a real move. The guy breaks down that to hide something, you just place it alongside similar things. He warns he needs backing, because Batala will come to take his life. The pudding cup stored inside the car's console glows softly. The MC proposes working for the network in exchange for having his safety guaranteed. While the two talk, the dashboard clock marks time ticking by. Lee San scoffs, asking if he isn't asking way too much from a student crew. Ryu Kong Min asserts firmly that he knows the true nature of the network inside out. The guy adds that their group is actually a syndicate of operatives. Elsewhere, the Batala boss stirs her teacup calmly. The woman remarks that the kids in the group are mere disposable smoke screens. Three of Hearts asks if the case will get swept under the rug, but her leader guarantees that won't happen. The subordinate gets curious to know where all that boss confidence stems from. The woman cracks a slight smirk and says she doesn't even need to state a reason to think so. The boss proudly reveals that she is the actual real holder of the Ace of Spades title. The vehicle's digital dash shows the fleet continuing to speed down the road. Lee San ponders the tempting chance to recruit the Ace of Spades into his lineup. The kid admits to his rival that the offer is crazy attractive for them. However, the villain decides to pass on the pitch, saying he'd rather not run that risk right now. Lee San jokes around, saying super sweet things rot teeth, and he's terrified of the dentist. The armored cars keep escorting the luxury ride at high speed. The youth suspects the story he heard might pack plenty of made-up lies. Lee San smirks and implies his rival might have dangerous ulterior motives. The kid compares taking that offer to drinking a cup of poison that could end them. Ryu Kong Min says the chat was great, but states it's best they part ways right here. Lee San lets out a mocking giggle, confused by the guy's abrupt move. The villain asks him to be straight instead of beating around the bush with silly metaphors. The MC points outside and says the network fears an armed clash against Batala. Ryu Kong Min locks eyes with the kid and asks if deep down he's terrified of the rival group. He mocks, saying Lee San rolled up with a whole pack of goons just to meet one person. The guy taunts, stating he gets the absolute dread he feels toward Batala. Lee San rests a hand on his shoulder and warns that the network is undisputed on home turf. The villain whispers insanely in his ear, guaranteeing they would come out on top. The car finally reaches its destination at a completely abandoned amusement park. The spot features decayed rides and statues worn down by time. Ryu Kong Min steps out of the ride, commenting it had been 10 years since he last visited a park. The guy checks out the surroundings and mockingly asks if it's already Halloween season. Lee San steps out beside him and breaks down that the park was shut down years ago. The villain gives a sinister smirk, warning there are 0 people and 0 cameras around. Lee San pops the car trunk, exposing a bloody trash bag perfect for dumping a body. The villain, smirking, reveals he intended to end the MC today, along with the person bagged up. Lee San then admits he changed his mind after reviewing his rival's file calmly. He explains one specific detail in the guy's report left him super intrigued. The villain recalls the female witness had 0 physical injuries when her memories were wiped. Lee San found it super weird that the girl walked away untouched from such a violent shootout. The kid picked up that the hitman fought the home. Time focused on protecting the witness. He reasons it would have been easier to take out the young girl to avoid drawing law enforcement. Lee San stared down his rival and asked if he actually grew attached to that girl. Kong Min inspects the trunk interior in complete silence, staying calm. The tied-up, gagged victim inside the ride turns out to be Choi Ha-Yin herself. The young girl thrashes frantically, trying to make noise beneath the duct tape. Kong Min's eyes widen, shocked upon recognizing his classmate in that state. The MC demands to know what this means, while Lee San mockingly smirks. The villain breaks down that he needs to verify if he is indeed the legendary ace of spades. Lee San gives a macabre smirk, prepping his demand to test the guy. The kid hands over a spoon and orders his rival to scoop a bite off that pudding. Lee San promises he'll accept the MC into the syndicate if he fulfills the command. The villain doubts one of the top operatives in the world would move out of soft sentimentality. He shows a picture of the two together and questions if a pro would get thrown off by affection. Lee San commands the guy to make a move right away without flinching. Kong Min checks out the metal spoon in his hand, processing the scenario. Choi Ha-Yin cries in terror, fearing for her life in the trunk. Kang Min asks with a cold gaze if a family-size serving works. The scene shifts to a restaurant where a giant desert over 3 feet tall is served up. The high school delinquents freeze at the ridiculous size of the dessert. The bully leader complains on the couch, warning he'll get sick from so much sugar. The boy decides to hit up Ha-Yin, since she was the one who insisted on ordering the dish. The kid eats a piece and finds it weird his friend isn't picking up, wondering if she got nabbed. Back at the park, the abandoned Ferris wheel stands out under the dark sky. Lee San repeats the challenge, ordering him to take a spoon bite out of the tied-up girl. The villain reinforces that this is the sole condition to accept him as an ally. The kid insists an elite operative wouldn't let himself get dragged down by silly feelings. Kong Min analyzes the spoon in his grip, computing his next play. Choi Ha-Yin stares at her classmate terrified, clueless about what he'll do next. The MC keeps an unreadable expression without displaying panic. He recalls that his main mission is to eliminate boss Lee San. His ultimate target is standing right in front of him at this exact instant. The moment he takes out Lee San, his mission will be completely wrapped up. However, the guy questions if that youth is truly the real Lee San. He considers the idea that his rival might just be a body double placed to test him. The MC calculates there's a 50% chance of it being a fake set up. If he attacks a dummy on impulse, the plan will crash hard. The true Lee San would catch his intent and vanish without leaving a trace. Kong Min concludes he can't act recklessly and ruin everything. For now, the guy prefers to play along and go with the villain's game. Lee San catches his rival's pause and mockingly scoffs at his sudden loss of nerve. But out of nowhere, Kong Min charges with full force toward the trunk. Lee San's eyes widen, caught completely off guard by the rapid rush. The MC's hand swiftly reaches Ha-Yin's body inside the vehicle. Lee San stands surprised seeing the guy actually jammed the spoon into the person in the ride. Kong Min reveals he struck without flinching because he clocked right away it was a setup. Lee San asks when he figured it out, and the MC replies he knew from the jump. The guy explains a disguise can never copy actual bone and muscle frame. Suddenly, a mic-check noise echoes throughout the whole amusement park. Lee San's voice starts broadcasting over the speaker while his image vanishes. The villain complains over the loudspeaker, saying his rival's reaction was super boring. Lee San confirms over the broadcast that the girl in the trunk was just an imposter. The kid reveals next that the person is actually one of his hired hands. The person sheds the disguise, revealing himself as a blonde guy bound in chains. The individual rips the synthetic skin off his face, displaying his true identity. The scene shows the abandoned Ferris wheel, while the mystery develops on sight. The blonde remarks he found it weird getting captured, just to play in that little show. The new character officially introduces himself as Lee Daniel, a network trader. Kong Min immediately suspects there's a hidden motive behind everything. Lee San praises the MC's sharpness over the park loudspeaker. The villain warns they share in common the fact that they're hunted by their syndicates. Lee-san announces, smirking, that he set up a resurrection duel between the two traitors. He commands them to fight to the death, warning only the victor joins the crew. The loudspeaker echoes the villain's voice, setting the signal to kick off the lethal brawl. The broadcast clears the start of battle, and a massive chain swings down from above. Lee Daniels' devastating blow crushes the luxury car, slicing the vehicle in two. The psychopath smirks insanely, admiring the total destruction caused by the swing. Lee Daniel gets fascinated by the clean cut on the ride, calling it a beautiful artwork. Ryu Kong Min dodges the brutal strike while his rival drops bizarre poetic lines. The lunatic proclaims himself a grand artist whose specialty is taking lives. He attacks in rage, guaranteeing he turns his victims into artistic works. The madman explains his target's bodies get elevated to high-value objects. Lee Daniel reminisces proudly on his last hit while the MC dodges. He boasts that he used the victim's own family to decorate the crime scene. Ryu Kong Min realizes with disgust that his rival enjoys mutilating and playing with bodies. The MC grips a metal steering wheel, overwhelmed by immense revulsion for his rival. The guy charges fast at his opponent, calling him an artistic psychopath. Lee Daniel observes the rapid rush without displaying any terror. The villain blocks the push with chains and says he takes the insult as a compliment. The lunatic twists around, saying a true artist needs an open mind. He bends his own body in a bizarre way to dodge and attempt to counter-strike. Lee Daniel compares his abnormal flexibility to the grace of feminine movements. Ryu Kong Min analyzes his opponent's exotic technique without losing combat focus. The lunatic edges close, whispering he'll explain what kind of art he'll turn him into. He breaks down that he plans to manipulate the muscles before the body goes fully rigid. The sick guy asserts he'll use chemicals to bleach the corpse until it's bright white. The MC plants his feet on the carousel floor, prepping his answer to the villain. The psychopath reveals he plans to impale the body on a pole to symbolize freedom. Ryu Kong Min listens to the macabre explanation and sums up the idea with coldness. The guy sarcastically asks if his grand plan is to turn him into a carousel horse. Lee Daniel finds the comparison funny and keeps charging, swinging his chains. The villain tightens his grip on the heavy chains wrapped around his fists. The sick guy tries to brag, but Kang Min catches a crucial opening in his movement. The chains lash out wildly, attempting to trap the MC on all sides. Pieces of carousel horses fly through the air during the battle's destruction. Lee Daniel inspects the trail of ruins, standing in the middle of dust smoke. The villain complains that comparing his art to plastic and metal scraps is absurd. A voice coming from the mist questions what the issue is with plastic and metal. A wooden horse is hurled violently straight at the villain. Lee Daniel raises his chain-wrapped hand to shatter the statue in half. Ryu Kong Min emerges crouched, asserting a true master doesn't blame his materials. The lunatic stands confused by the MC's comeback, failing to catch his intent. The guy warns he's going to show his adversary what real artwork looks like. Several wooden stakes and columns from the carousel come crashing down on the villain. Lee Daniel scoffs, saying a simple, direct attack like that is super cliché. However, the psychopath notices a weird, symmetrical pattern in the stakes pinned to the floor. Ryu Kong Min gives a slight smirk and asks what his rival thought of his artistic work. The ropes on the floor form the shape of a giant pentagram surrounding the villain. The MC sarcastically says he turned the horse's sadness into pure magic. The psychopath angrily states that hearing such childish talk ruins his artistic sense. The villain tries to yank his chains, but realizes the stakes were pinned down firm. Kong Min looks up, warning that the real surprise is coming straight from the sky. A heavy Ferris wheel car plunges from above, toward the lunatic like a meteor. Lee Daniel looks up in panic, realizing the lethal trap sprung on sight. The iron structure slams down with devastating impact, crushing the pentagram area. A thick cloud of smoke and dust blankets the whole setting after the absurd shock. The ride's Devers lies scattered across the abandoned plaza floor. Lee Daniels' voice emerges from the rebel, complaining he found that art hideous. The psychopath survives and starts stretching his arm muscles, consumed by rage. He lifts the destroyed car effortlessly, promising to teach real beauty. The villain hears a small dog barking and stands confused by the sound. A small mechanical toy dog walks near his feet, barking non-stop. Lee Daniels stares at the miniature on the floor, shocked to see something so ridiculous. Ryu Kong Min steps out of the gift shop and apologizes, claiming he hadn't heard. The MC appears wearing a glowing tiara and holding a toy wand. Lee Daniel watches that bizarre sight completely bewildered and speechless. Kang Min presses the button on the pink wand handle to trigger the kid's toy. The accessory lights up, and the guy jokes around saying art needs to be flashy. The villain stares at his rival incredulously, unable to get his mocking vibe. The MC gives a confident smirk while the object glows intensely. The plastic wand handle reflects the light of the accessory's small bulbs. The plastic toy flashes pink and purple lights, emitting high sound effects. Kong Min recites the wand commercial, saying it serves to exterminate demons. Lee Daniel scoffs, asserting that routine is ridiculous and childish to watch. The lunatic asks if he plans to use that as a weapon, and the guy stays cool. Lee Daniel rips his own shirt and says great masters are picky with weapons. Razor-sharp red wires appear scattered across the entire floor of the venue. The villain displays thin monofilament lines woven between his fingers. Ryu Kong Min feels deep disgust seeing his rival pull wires out from his clothes. Lee Daniel explains the line is delicate as a paintbrush and sharp as a chisel. The red wires slice nearby statues and shear the tiara right off the guy's head. The MC notes impressed that the line cut through a statue of solid stone. Kong Min realizes those red wires aren't ordinary sewing items. The guy stares down the psychopath, prepping his next combat play. Lee Daniel grabs the guy's head, warning he'll be the next to get sculpted. The toy wand flashes an intense light by surprise in the middle of battle. The wand blasts soap bubbles directly into Lee Daniel's face. The villain screams in agony, complaining that soap got into his eyes. Kong Min acts surprised and jokes around, saying he'll defeat demons with bubbles. Lee Daniel rubs his eyes outraged at getting hit by such a dirty trick. The psychopath complains cheap chemicals ruin his skin, then notices the void. Lee Daniel looks around furious, screaming to know where his rival hid. Kong Min observes the villain from atop a pillar, analyzing his movement. The guy acknowledges his adversary's weapon. Mastery is high tier. He ponders that mastering heavy chains and sharp wires demands insane technique. However, Kong Min notes the rival is terrible at tracking targets that take cover. The MC wraps up his rating on the network hitman's skill level. The guy decides it's time to end that clash once and for all. Suddenly, Ryu Kong Min's eye widens upon catching a dangerous detail. He notices the plaza statues are all interconnected by red wires. A subtle line is already wrapped around the MC's own back. The guy looks back, confused as to when that wire got placed there. Lee Daniel appears behind him, whispering that calling his art ugly is too much. Kong Min spins around fast in an attempt to strike the enemy from behind. The toy wand is sliced cleanly in half instantly by the red line. Lee Daniel gives him a cobber smirk and calls his rival a practice dummy. The villain guarantees he'll use that body to craft his ultimate masterpiece. The lunatic preps the wires between his fingers to deal his finishing blow. Lee Daniel hears the toy's voice and wonders where that sound is coming from. The villain realizes horrified that the wand tip was jammed into his neck. Blood gushes violently from the insane hitman's severed throat. Ryu Kong Min asks with extreme coldness what he thought of that attack. Lee Daniel howls in agony, trying frantically to stop the bleeding. Kong Min mocks him, asking if he'll keep talking about art while he passes away. The villain chokes on his own blood, unable to form an answer. Lee Daniel runs off frantically, trying to save his own life. The MC watches his opponent's pathetic flight in total silence. The park's massive drop tower creaks high up on the abandoned ride. The arcade building stands out with the metal structure on its roof. The inside of the place is dark and filled with old arcade cabinets. Ryu Kong Min steps into the shed, following the blood trail left by his rival. The guy checks the marks on the floor and remarks the getaway was frantic. He notes that deep down, even a psychopath is terrified of facing death. Lee Daniel emerges wheezing with his neck wrapped to stem the bleeding. The villain starts getting philosophical, saying everything in the world wears down over time. Kong Min listens in silence, while his rival asserts that death consumes life. The madman kneels and says the line between life and death will never be severed. Kong Min asks, annoyed, why he's blabbering such nonsense. The MC mockingly asks if he decided to turn into a philosopher now. Lee Daniel smirks insanely and answers that it's simply his inspiration. The villain reveals that facing death up close gave him a genius idea. The lunatic asserts he prefers to take action on his own terms rather than give up. The image displays the top of the park ride where the tower mechanism sits. The red line is tied directly to the drop tower release lever. Lee Daniel plans to pull death straight onto himself through the tower mechanism. Ryu Kong Min watches the villain kneeling on the floor surrounded by the web of lines. The guy warns he lost way too much blood, and that's why he's non-stop delirious. The MC notices surprised the red wires tightening all around him. Lee Daniel adjusts line tension on his fingers, keeping his eyes locked on his rival. The entire shed sits trapped in a lethal web of red wires. The line tied around the villain's neck connects straight to the trigger on the roof. The psychopath pulls the wires, feeling unbearable pain in his own body. The lunatic asserts that destruction will be his final posthumous masterpiece. He spits blood and screams that this is his grandest creation of all. The madman gives a macabre smirk and asks if the guy can hear the noise. Bolts on the massive iron tower start coming loose on the shed roof. Kong Min tries to move, but notices the wires around him are way too strong. He reflects on the web of fate and the lethal clash between two operatives. The guy analyzes with a serious gaze the pointlessness of that desperate act. The tower's giant structure plunges straight down onto the building's roof. Kong Min looks up horrified, seeing the structure crashing down on them. Lee Daniel leans against the guy's chest, giving him a macabre embrace before the end. The villain titles his creation Embracing Death before losing his life. The two remain locked in an embrace in the center of that web of red wires. The building roof gives way, and large rocks start tumbling into the spot. The iron tower crushes the shed completely, destroying everything around. The sunset emerges on the horizon, bringing a super gorgeous orange glow. The twilight light illuminates the destroyed ruins of the amusement park. Lee San watches the park's destruction, surprised by the shocking result. The kid comments in disbelief that a whole building used to sit there. He notes the place was reduced to dust and rubble in just a few minutes. The large metal structure lies wrecked on top of the shed remains. Lee San reflects on his former, Ali's insane choice to seek out death. The villain concludes art really is something extremely tough to understand. Lee San gets startled seeing Kong Min pop up at his side, lighting a smoke. Kong Min mockingly says lighting the cigarette took more effort than that. The MC calmly notifies him that he fulfilled the requested order to the letter. Lee San smirks satisfied, acknowledging he truly delivered on what was asked. The villain recalls the weird demand to scoop a bite out of that pudding. The scene displays the park's old dessert-themed attraction. The spot's wooden sign highlights the figure of a fork and spoon. The image displays giant sculptures of dishes and desserts in the plaza. Lee Daniel had been secured and placed on the giant plate like a pudding. The psychopath whispered about his posthumous art before losing his life there. Lee San claps hypedly, declaring the guy passed the test. The villain extends his hand, promising the network will guarantee his complete safety. Ryu Kong Min gives a subtle smirk before answering his rival's offer. The MC guarantees he will take down anyone who needs to be eliminated. The guy's cold gaze conceals his true intent behind that deal. He reinforces with a calm smile that he'll do it no matter who the target is. Days later, the story jumps forward, showing a quiet street at twilight. Kong Min heads home and finds lack of contact from his new allies weird. The youth punches in his door code, thinking about unwinding watching short videos. The MC steps into his apartment and gives a confident thumbs up sign. A dark living room with reddish lighting pops up on screen. Rule Kong Min suspects an intruder and stays on alert in the space. A voice listens to the recording and asks if the youth likes pudding. Kong Min eats pudding calmly while joking about being a kid. The MC thinks Lee San is way different from what he pictured. He finds it unbelievable that such a childish kid leads a group of operatives. The guy reflects that Lee San gives off no master aura and no smell of blood. However, the MC felt there was one super weird detail about him. The villain radiated a bizarre and disturbing vibe in the air. The Batala boss warns over a call that standard evidence isn't enough. She demands a refutable physical proof that he's the real Lee San. Kong Min reveals the rival himself handed over that needed proof. Footage shows the moment Lee San used the spoon to eat the sweet treat. The MC collected the spoon to secure a sample of his DNA. The guy notes the villain was careless or saw no need for caution. He remembers that without a base comparison DNA, analysis will have to wait. 3 of Hearts reports that most procedures have already been wrapped up. She warns that only formal clearance from High Command is missing. The wooden doors of the High Command office start opening up. The agent guarantees she'll dispatch backing to Korea as soon as it's approved. The scene cuts to a dark port with boats docked in the water. 2 men in formal suits meet at the pier holding a briefcase. The older man in a suit breaks down that he rushed everything for the global summit in Seoul. The long-haired man pops open the briefcase, which emits an intense glow. He celebrates the chance to bypass security and reach the presidents. The secret item is actually live octopus skewers. A social media clip promotes the exotic dish, asking for comments. The user swipes the phone screen to the next news clip. The screen displays a clip of a young idol trainee dancing. A warning pops up stating screen time has passed 13 hours. Kong Min appears lying on the couch, lamenting wasting his whole day. He complains that the network members still haven't sent a single message. The image displays the quiet neighborhood street lit by the setting sun. The phone notifies that the octopus food delivery was completed. The guy walks down the street, wondering if he got dropped before even starting. He arrives at his front door and spots the delivery bag left right there. The guy reflects that he holds 0 direct contacts for the enemy group. He picks up the food bag, complaining about the communication lag. The guy finds the light weight of the package weird, wondering if he forgot an item. He reads the order receipt to check the name of the extra dessert. The receipt displays an error message full of hexadecimal codes. The guy wonders if the restaurant's printer glitched out. Suddenly, the guy notices that this was just a trick maneuver. He realizes the coded text represents standard ASCII messages. The MC analyzes the printed paper, spotting the code's origin. The paper carries a subtle watermark, confirming a note from the network. He finds the method tedious and deduces they fear getting tracked down. The youth begins translating the numbers and letters of the code mentally. The guy decides to use a computer converter to decode everything. The MC enters his dark room, ready to decode the secret. Kong Min checks out the digital lock's details closely. The guy knows that lock features a special security mechanism. The keypad has a layer of magnetic dust that sticks to the keycard, and if someone punches in the code, the fingerprint trace stays logged on screen, meaning either way, whoever enters will leave inevitable trail. Under special light, the presence of an intruder stands fully proven. The reddish light of the setting sun illuminates neighboring rooftops. The MC is absolute certain an intruder stepped into his apartment. He deduces an ordinary burglar wouldn't take so many cleaning precautions. The guy spots a sharp blade stashed beneath the entry shelf. He draws the tactical knife, knowing this is how a pro operates. Kong Min advances silently through the living room lit by twilight. He complains out loud about school to cover up while searching for his target. The guy walks around faking eagerness to eat while scoping out the house. The MC inspects the kitchen area, keeping his guard up. The guy searches every dark corner of the room with his sharp gaze. The marble island and main hall look completely empty. The guy sets the food on the counter and confirms the kitchen is clear. The MC approaches one of the closed doors in the apartment. He checks the bathroom and laundry room, establishing they're unoccupied. The guy zeroes his attention on the next suspicious room in the place. He checks out the master bedroom and the large wooden wardrobe. The closet doors have a small crack open in the dark. The guy pretends to look for his tablet, talking to himself near the furniture. He comments in a casual tone that he can't eat without watching videos. The wardrobe interior remains completely still and quiet. Kang Min yanks the closet open abruptly, blade ready to strike. The inside of the furniture reveals only hangers with hanging clothes. The MC notices the empty closet and confirms the bedroom is clear. He wonders where the intruder could be hiding if they didn't go to the basement. Suddenly, the guy hears the sound of running shower water in the background. The bathroom door lights up inside to the sound of running water. He finds it weird that the intruder would turn on water to give away their position. The guy steps up on alert right in front of the bathroom entrance. The MC recognizes the military tactic of a fixed-angle ambush. The technique consists of luring the target with sound and bottlenecking their entry. The attacker waits in the blind spot to strike as soon as the door opens. However, the guy knows perfectly well how to disarm that kind of setup. The MC's hand grips the doorknob, prepping the counter strike. He breaches the door, opening it opposite the direction expected by his rival. Capitalizing on the enemy's surprise, the guy charges fast with his knife. The initial idea was to thrust into the opponent's chest caught off guard, and then sweep the lower body to take down the target. But out of nowhere, the MC loses his footing and his eyes widen. The guy's foot steps right onto a slippery bar of soap on the floor. The MC slips on the soap and falls hard onto his back on the wet tile. The shower keeps running, filling the whole bathroom with water and steam. Kang Min lies on the floor looking up, totally embarrassed. The guy stands in shock at the bizarre sight. He finds right before him that the blonde woman taking a shower asks, surprised, what he's doing in there. At the Batala office, a voice confirms backups reached South Korea. The organization boss calculates that by now, the two have already met up. The woman thanks her superior for the rapid, green light on the support mission. The vintage phone on the desk echoes the voice of the syndicate's general manager. The call confirms the deployment of operatives, Ace of Spades and Three of Hearts. The leader highlights that dispatching two elites for a mysterious target is unprecedented. The voice on the phone asks if the boss believes in the success of that operation. The leader takes a brief pause in the dialogue before revealing her thoughts. The woman states that judging purely by the combat prowess of the pair, the boss declares 99% certainty in the mission's success. She ponders that the remaining 1% hinges on a crucial detail. The woman concludes that victory will depend on the teamwork of the two. Fallen on the floor, Kang Min vents relieved, saying he mistook her for an intruder. The guy recalls he had indeed requested backup from Batala. Shower water falls into his open mouth while he tries to say something. Three of Hearts splashes water on his face, and the young man tries to say her name. The agent smirks mockingly and comments on the rough way he opened the door. Three of Hearts teases the guy, asking if he missed her that much.